Hello everyone, this is your friend Naruto Nexus 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was trapped in an onsen with Tsunade, Shizune and Anko Part 1. The first thing Yuya felt when she came to was a blinding, searing pain in her legs, and another pain that was coming from her shoulder. Quote! She clapped her hand over the pain spot that she knew her cure mark was. The small mark was hot, unbearably so, and burned her fingers at the touch. That Orochi Tem, she shrieked. I'm not dead yet. Don't you dare take the seal from me. Cuckoo, laughed a sadistic voice in her head as the mark began to fade. I'm terribly sorry, Yuya-chan, but with you pinned like that, I doubt even the power of my gift could help you. What the do you mean pinned? Then her thoughts snapped back to the pain in her legs and she whipped her head around behind her. Her face paled as she caught sight of herself. Oh no. Oh no. Orochimaru. I've been loyal to you for most of my life, you can't leave me like this. Her screams of anger and pain only served to amuse the snake Sannin further as his voice began to fade as well, but what would I do with a broken pawn when I already have my knight? And then the presence was gone, along with her last hope of escaping alive. Yuya felt like crying. For the first time in a long time, she wanted to break down. Abandoned. I've been abandoned again. She lurched forward in an attempt to free herself from the giant tree that was crushing her legs. Quote! Someone. Anyone. Help me. Her leg bones crackled, causing her to shriek again in pain. Jirobo. Sakin. Kimimaro. Anyone. Help. The pain was so intense that she collapsed back to the ground in exhaustion. Help. She passed into unconsciousness. You sure you're good for travel, Yaki? Jiraiya asked. You barely started to heal. Give the fox more time to work. No, the young blonde growled tiredly, I can heal as we go. I need this training if I'm going to bring Sasuke back. He's right, the nine-tailed fox growled, you should rest more. You used far too much of my chakra too soon for your age. Be quiet, Naruto snapped, since when do you care about me? Do I really need to answer that, Kit? I take it the fox is agreeing with me. Jiraiya said, noticing the boy's scowl, which he threw his way when he heard the old toad sage. Jiraiya smiled. Just like his father and mother, too stubborn to rest, and too prideful to admit that he needs it. Look, we'll take it easy for a while until the fox can fix you. I don't intend on training you until we reach the border to Suna. Naruto's face broke into a grin, we're going to Sunagaker. Yup. He smiled at the boy's renewed energy, you'll get to see Gaara and his siblings. Awesome. I could do without seeing that psychotic Tanuki, commented the fox. Naruto ignored him, too excited to see his old friend to care that his tenant had insulted him to some degree. And I get see what Suna has to offer my research. The Sannin snicker, clasping his hands together in excitement. Naruto stopped, looking at him with a deadpan expression. Pervert. Ah, you wound me, Yaki, I am not a pervert. I'm a super pervert. Naruto, and even the fox, groaned as the legendary ninja and self-proclaimed lady killer struck a pose in front of him. Can we get going? The blonde asked. I really don't want to be seen with you looking like that. The old man laughed, coming from a mummy. I'm working on it, damn it. The fox roared huffily. I'd like to see you try to heal a hole the size of a human arm through the chest, and a lung, in a matter of days. The roars from inside his head gave Naruto a slight headache as the fox vented his anger toward the toad sage, even though he couldn't hear his ranting. Arrow Sennin, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't make fun of the fox's power. He takes it out on me. Who else am I supposed to torment? Sorry, Yaki, I'll try to keep that in mind. The smirk on the old man's face said otherwise, and Naruto knew that this was going to be a long 3 years as they continued on their way, with Konohagakure getting smaller with each step he took. 3 hours later, as they continued into the afternoon, Jiraiya noticed Naruto lagging behind. Oi, Naruto, we'll stop and rest here for a while, alright? he called back. Naruto didn't argue. Though the fox was working wonders no medical nin could work, it was a slow process, mainly due to the fact that the fox was slightly pissed at the boy for putting their lives in danger, just to save a Uchiha brat that didn't want to be saved. Naruto quickly caught up with him, despite his injuries, and sat down heavily on the ground under one of the trees that grew along the road. Jiraiya thought that he wouldn't be moving for a while, and decided to go ahead and start setting up camp. Naruto soon found himself dozing off, though, and then found himself in a very familiar place. Finally, you took your sweet time, Kit. Da. Naruto nearly fell over backward at the fox's loud voice in the chamber, splashing water all over himself. Warn me before you call me in here. Now where's the fun in that? The Kyuubi asked, his giant face coming right up to the bars of his cage. Either way, you're here, and I have a request. And it's so simple, even you could do it. Hearing you say that doesn't make me wanna do it, Fleabag. Naruto crossed his arms. Since we're going to be together for a while, how about being nice for a change? Nice. Nice. The entire room shook as the Biju bellowed. I'm the all-powerful Kyuubi no Kitsune. An almighty force of nature. And I'm stuck inside this pitiful excuse of a mind on the inside of a self-proclaimed knucklehead ninja. I don't do nice. Alright, already. Quit shouting before you make me got deaf. Naruto yelped. What do you want? If you can believe it, a better prison cell. Huh. Think about it, Kit, Kyuubi sighed, placing a giant hand over his eyes. This is your mind, and, in a sense, your world. It can look however you want it to look, and yet here I am in a sewer. You mean this is how I want this place to look? The boy was slightly surprised, looking around at all the rusty, dripping pipes that hung all around the room. Damn, I must have had more depression than I thought. I'll have to agree with that thought, Kit. This is a result of extreme depression. Believe it or not, before we met, I had to squash a few suicidal thoughts before they could come to the forefront of your mind so that you could act them out. Suicide. Naruto scoffed. Now that's bullshit. Is it? Kyuubi grinned. Think about it. You were beaten, starved, cast out, and ignored for the longest time. The sheer loneliness would have gotten to a normal ninja long ago. Face the facts, Kit, I've saved your sorry tail more than once, without having to use my chakra cloak. The grin turned into a sneer. So you owe me, and the least you can do is give me a more comfortable living space. Naruto thought for a moment, letting all that the Kyuubi had said sink in. Sighing, he realized that the giant fox was right. Okay, you win, I'll give it a try. How do I do this? Well, you caved in more easily than I thought. Kyuubi sneered again. Shut up, or I'll leave. Naruto threatened. Do you want this or not? Fine, then just imagine it. If you were a fox, where would you like to live? Thinking on that, Naruto sat down in the water, crossing his legs, and closed his eyes, thinking of all the places he'd seen foxes. The Kyuubi, he knew, would need something more than just a forest though since he was so big. Then he remembered the Chunin examines and his romp in the forest of death. There had been foxes there, too. Big ones. He even thought he'd seen one with more than one tail. As this was going on, the Kyuubi waited impatiently for the boy to get it right, and suddenly everything around them shattered. The Kyuubi's eyes widened as the very bars that had imprisoned him melted away into golden sparks that began swirling around Naruto, seal and all. The dark sewer he'd come to call his prison turned into a vast, white infinity that had the beast worried for a moment. Then there was a sky. Clear, and blue and beautiful to the fox, who had only seen it through his captor's eyes, and very briefly after his forced escape from his previous container. Then he felt earth beneath his feet. Soft, fertile soil, perfect for any type of plant. Not bad, Kit, but is that all? I don't think I can start a garden in here. Naruto ignored the comment. He wasn't done yet, a fact which quickly registered with the Kyuubi as the ground started to shake. Oi, Kit. What do you think you're doing? Again he was ignored. All around them plants started to grow. Not small plants, but giant, tall, and beautiful trees whose roots shot out of the ground, and into the air as they branched out, and formed leaves, and caves beneath their bases. One such root burst out of the ground beneath them, lifting both boy and fox off the ground. This nearly caused the demon to lose his footing, and had to dig his claws into the root to keep his balance. Damn you, Kit, when I get my hands on you all. Like the new look? Naruto asked, finally opening his eyes, giving his tenant a foxy grin. Kyuubi growled at him, but looked around at his new surroundings. The trees were bigger than he was. I hate to admit this, but I'm impressed. This is perfect. I can even sense animals to hunt here. Big ones, too. I modeled this place after the Forest of Death, so don't be surprised if you find a few giant snakes. Naruto said, still grinning. As long as I get to tear something apart. Kyuubi sighed in content, then realized that the sparks were still swirling around Naruto. Kid, what is that anyway? What? This? Naruto grinned, it's your new collar. Collar. To the Kyuubi's horror, the sparks shot right at him and whirled around his neck, forming a secure, yet comfortable fitting leather collar. Naruto snickered at the fox's outraged look. That looks good on you. How dare you? I'm not some common cur that can be collared. Get this damnable thing off of me. Sorry, but the seal had to go somewhere. Naruto laughed, knowing full well that his little prank on the fox had worked. You little runt. The Kyuubi lunged at him. Naruto yelped and sprinted out of the fox's reach. Glad you like the new mindscape. Gotta go. Oh, no you don't. Get back here you little guttersnipe. The fox pounded after him on all fours. When I get my hands on you, you'll wish I was Orochimaru. Come back here. I'll skin you alive. Sorry, but I'm gone. Naruto laughed, and suddenly disappeared back into the real world, leaving behind one very angry fox. Outside while Naruto is sleeping. While Naruto seemed to be sleeping, Jiraiya had set up camp and started going about making their dinner. He looked over at the boy, who looked peaceful, despite what was really going on in his mind, as he snored softly. HMPH, told you we should have waited until you recovered. Jiraiya laughed softly. He stood up from where he'd knelt to form a fire pit, and started off into the woods for firewood. This is going to be good for him, I think. We just need to stay clear of Iwa. He looks too much like Minato to even risk the border. He said to himself as he started gathering a small bundle of wood. Kumo could be a little dangerous, given that little stunt they pulled with the Hyuga, but... He stopped for a moment, catching something drifting on the breeze. Is that blood? He took a deep breath, inhaling the scent more. It is, and it's fresh. Dropping his bundle and biting his thumb he preformed the boar, dog, bird, monkey and ram signs. Kuchio's no jutsu. A puff of smoke rose from where he'd placed his hand on the ground, revealing a little orange and blue toad wearing a blue vest. Hey, Jiraiya, what gives? Gamakichi asked. I thought Pops was your main summon. Normally, yes, Jiraiya said, kneeling down to the little toad, but I need you to stay and look after Naruto for me. I can smell blood in the air, and it's fresh, and close by. Oh, I gotcha, sure thing. Gamakichi saluted. Where is the boss, anyway? He's over there. The old man pointed back toward the road, leaning against a tree sleeping. He's in pretty bad shape, too, so keep an eye out for anything suspicious. You got it. Gamakichi hopped off toward his friend, while Jiraiya sped off into the forest. For the last 3 hours or so, Tayuya had slipped in and out of consciousness from either pain or blood loss, she didn't know which. But each time she woke up again, she redoubled her efforts to get out. Her legs felt like they were being ripped to pieces as she struggled, yet she could feel them moving ever so slightly with each effort. She was getting herself loose. But then she would pass out again from the pain of it, and the fear of not being able to get out. Of dying here in the middle of the forest, alone. Now she was more determined than ever to free herself as she clawed and scrabbled at the ground for a handhold on something, grunting in pain and effort just to get a breath. This. And that Orochi Tem. I'm not dying here. The girl swore, struggling again. I'll hunt him down. I'll kill him for abandoning me. If you really mean that, then maybe I should help you. Who said that? Tsuyu demanded, looking around for the source of the voice, her hope flaring up. Who's there? Why, I am the almighty Kami-sama. A large sweat drop appeared on her face. I call bullying shit on that. A booming laugh sounded from right above her and she craned her neck to see what was there. She saw an old man in a bright red vest that looked like something out of the kabuki theater, and he wore a headband that sported the kanji for oil on it. I'll leave the introductions, he said, jumping down from his perch. For now, let's see what I can do about getting this tree off of you, huh? She nearly cried. I've been stuck here for days. All the more reason for me to hurry, he grinned, rubbing his hands together, but this is a fairly large tree. I can do this on my own. Not even in sage mode. I'll need help with this. She watched him, fearing that he'd leave her, but instead he started making hand signs so fast that she could barely see them. Then he slammed his hand into the ground, Kuchio's no jutsu. For the second time that day, a puff of smoke appeared in the woods, yet this time, the summon was much, much larger. What an odd place I've come to, said the giant green toad. Ah, Jiraiya, how nice to see you. What can I do for you? Thanks for coming, Gamanatsu, the old man said, then patted the tree that was trapping the girl. I need you to move this tree off of this girl without crushing her. I have a feeling that her leg's already in bad shape thanks to being under it for so long. I'd be surprised if she can even feel them anymore. Great way to scare a girl, Tsuyu thought snidely. I will do what I can. The toad lumbered over to the tree and hunched just in front of her. Try not to move, little one. I'll make this as quick as possible. Thank you, Tsuyu cried, then held perfectly still as the toad reached for the tree with his webbed hands. The tree creaked and groaned as her lifted it. Jiraiya moved in a flash, taking the girl's hands, and pulling her out from under the tree as soon as there was enough room. Tsuyu screamed with pain and relief at being freed, and would have wept for joy if she didn't hurt so much. It hurts. I can see why, Jiraiya growled. I'll have to treat you right now if you want to use those legs of yours. Do you require assistance? Gamanatsu asked. I could use some of my healing oils on her wounds. In a moment, but I need to get these splinters out first. Jiraiya said. Splinters, Tsuyu said, then made the mistake of looking back at her legs. What she saw made her blanch. Her legs, or what was left of them, were mangled, and nearly skinless, and there were fragments of wood, large and small, piercing them. Oh Kami, I'm finished. Don't talk like that, Jiraiya growled, reached for his sealing scroll that contained his medical supplies. I've never let anyone die on me like this, and you will not be the first. But my legs are F. Enough swearing, Jiraiya snapped, and your legs will be fine. With Gamanatsu's oil and my bone-setting skills, even the shattered bones will be back to normal. But, before she could go any further, he unsealed all his supplies, gauze, forceps, clamps, scalpels, needles, and the like. She shivered at the sight of the needles and the stitching thread. This is gonna hurt. She whimpered. Just try not to thrash too much. He told her, I'll be as quick as I can. And then he got started. Gamanatsu's heart went out to the poor girl as Jiraiya worked on her. She screamed, and swore like a sailor with each large fragment he removed from her, but she didn't thrash, or even flinch as he did all this, not even when he poured a little sake into the wounds to clean them, but she did scream even louder than he thought humanly possible. Natsu, the oil if you please. Jiraiya said. Gamanatsu made a hand sign without question, and produced a large vat of yellow oil. I believe this will do, it is very good for skin regrowth. Thank you, friend. Jiraiya left off his treatment of her and went to dip his hands into the vat, Don't worry, this'll be more pleasant than removing the wood. Great. Tsuyu moaned, that makes me so happy. Jiraiya chuckled, if Kushina had a daughter. It will be, trust me, this stuff works wonders. Then he knelt and applied the oil. At first her wound stung from the oil, but that quickly passed as the oil numbed her legs, and began slowly closing the wounds. The girl sighed in relief. That's better. See, told you so. Jiraiya smirked. Now tell me, what was all that about going after Orochimaru? Tsuyu stiffened. That's none of your business. Oh, well, if you wanted to get some sort of revenge on the old snake, then I might be able to help you with that. Jiraiya offered. I know him quite well. Yeah, sure, and I'm a Sanin. Tsuyu spat. Come on, the only man I know who could go toe-to-toe with that is Jiraiya the Toad Sage. Jiraiya's smirk grew wider. Didn't you hear Gamanatsu earlier? That's what he called me. And in case you didn't notice, he is a toad that I summoned. Tsuyu blushed, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. Jiraiya threw back his head and laughed. No need to get flustered, girl, I get that reaction a lot. Sorry, she stuttered, it's just that I've always heard that you were a pervert. And you haven't even once tried to. Stop right there, Jiraiya said, much to Gamanatsu's amusement. I only check out girls in their 20s and up, you're what? 12. 13, she said, sighing in relief, can you really help me? My dear, he said, charging his hands with healing chakra, if I can train the Yondaime Hokage, I can train a foul-mouthed Gaki. Back with Naruto. Oi, don't ignore me. I know you can hear me, Kit. Get back in here so I can eat you. The Kyuubi roared, still fairly pissed off about his new collar. Naruto, for the most part, remained asleep, and dreamed happily without being drawn back into the seal by the fox. But that didn't stop him from hearing the demons roaring. I should have put a leash on him, too. Naruto thought, hoping the demon heard him. He did. You try, and I'll make your life a living hell. And trust me when I say you haven't seen hell yet. Believe me when I say go suck it. I'm trying to sleep. Naruto snapped back at the outraged fox. You're lucky I'm still stuck in here, Kit. How does that make me lucky? The fleas you give me are murder. Naruto smirked. The comment had the desired effect. The Kyuubi roared even louder at the insult. I do not have fleas. Come in here and say that to my claws. Thanks but no thanks. Naruto thought. I know you can't really kill me, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let you rip me apart just to make yourself feel better. Just a little. The fox cooed in a mock pleading voice. I promise I won't hurt you, much. No, so forget about it. You got your new home, so be happy. Oh, look, is that a rabbit? Naruto peeked into his mindscape and imagined a large rabbit, just big enough to catch the fox's interest, scampering along the forest floor. Needless to say, the fox forgot all about being angry and did what any fox would do when he or she saw a rabbit, and chased after it. Naruto smirked, glad to see his tenant relatively happy for a change. But as he was drifting back into his dreams. Oi, Kit, wake up. I smell blood. Human blood. Naruto snapped his eyes open at the mention of blood, and unknowingly sent a little orange toad that had been resting on his head flying. What's wrong with you? Gamakichi yelled angrily. What the heck are you doing here? Naruto asked sleepily. Jiraiya asked me to look after you. He said, dusting himself off, then he ran off saying he smelled blood in the air. Yeah, the fox told me the same thing, Naruto said, getting to his feet, and nearly doubling over. Gah. Damn, why is it taking so long to heal? I blame that damned black chakra the Uchiha brat used on for that Chidori he put through you. That was as close to demonic chakra as a human can get. The fox growled angrily, it's the only thing I can think of that's holding me back. Normally, even with such a severe wound as this, you'd be healed by now, long before now in fact. So, that's it, huh? Naruto groaned, clutching his chest where Sasuke's claws had pierced him. TCH, Tem got me good after all, didn't he? Talkin' to the fox? Gamakichi asked. Naruto gave him a nod. Yeah, he thinks some of the chakra from the curse mark might be slowing down my healing. That makes sense. I mean, from what I know of this Orochimaru guy, he's one sick mother. The old man is coming, the Kyuubi said, and he's not alone, he has a female with him. Ero Sennin is coming back, Naruto said, and the fox says he's got a girl with him. This is Jiraiya we're talking about here, Gamakichi said, holding out his pinky. He's always got women around when he travels. I'll thank you both not to talk about me like that. The old sage yelled as he entered the campsite, and Naruto immediately noticed the woman in his arms. But it wasn't a woman he'd brought back, but a girl that Naruto knew. What the hell? Naruto yelled, pointing toward the girl. Oh, not you again, shithead. You two know each other? Jiraiya asked in amusement, seeing the look on Naruto's face. She's one of the Sound Four. Naruto growled, what the hell are you doing with her? Drama. I'm out, Gamakichi said, and poofed out of existence. I found her trapped under a tree, Naruto, he said to the angry blonde, I couldn't just leave her there. And before you start caterwauling, he said, seeing that Naruto was about to yell again, neither could you. What? That? He would have left me to rot. Tsuyu growled, crossing her arms. Then she smirked at him, what happened to you, anyway? Lose a fight with a mummy. Ah, shut up, what's your excuse? Hairy legs. Naruto shot back. Tsuyu looked down at her now bandaged legs and blushed. A tree fell on me, you shit. Okay, that's enough out of both of you. Jiraiya chuckled. Naruto, be nice to her. Orochimaru took the curse mark from her as soon as she was downed, so she's no friend of his anymore. Yeah, right, Naruto muttered. Can it? Shrimp. Tsuyu growled. What did you call me? Shrimp. SHRIP. Got it this time. Quiet. Jiraiya yelled, silencing both of them. He looked at both of them, making sure that they weren't going to start up again. Alright then. Look, Naruto, I know you hate Orochimaru, but that's no reason to carry a grudge against this girl. If I know that old snake, then he probably kidnapped her young and did worse things to her than you could imagine. And he's just thrown her away like a piece of Tsuyu coughed. I'm right here, jackass. Sorry, Jiraiya muttered, my point is, she's not on his side anymore, and probably never was. Right. She threw her fist. I begged him to help me when I felt the mark leaving me. But did he? No. I was stuck under a tree for 3 days trying to get out until Gigi came along. Jiraiya sighed, why can't you Gakis ever call me sensei? Naruto, having calmed down from his shock, gave the girl a good look. She was kind of pale, but not unhealthily so, and had red hair, like he'd seen before, and she'd be about his height when she stood up. So what are you gonna do with her? What'd mean do with her? Tsuyu snapped, my legs are ed. Like I said, Naruto sighed, we're on a 3-year training mission for the leaf. So, Tsuyu asked, does it look like I can skip all the way home? Naruto, stop arguing with her and roll out a bedroll, please. Jiraiya said, and you, he looked down at Tsuyu, making the girl flinched, then smiled at her, just relax. You're staying with us. What? Naruto yelled. Deal with it, Gaki. Jiraiya yelled, I'm not one to leave a kid injured and unprotected. Alright, but what if we get in trouble? Naruto asked, I mean Ba-chan won't like this. I deal with that when the time comes, until then, she's my student just as much as you are. Naruto grumbled something and went about setting out the roll like he'd asked rather stiffly. When he had it ready, Jiraiya laid the girl down gently, though straightening her legs was painful, and let her rest while he went back to gathering firewood, leaving the two teens alone. Tsuyu watched the young blonde as he leaned himself back against the tree, noticing the way he moved. Did that Tem do that to him? Or Kimimaro? Naruto was breathing heavily when he'd sat himself down. His wounds, though healed a little more thanks to the QB, still pained him. The female is looking at you. His head snapped up in surprise as the fox said this, and immediately locked onto the girl, whose eyes were also on him. What? How'd you get hurt? She asked. Naruto's eyes narrowed, but he didn't say anything. Oi, don't ignore me. Why do you care? He asked evenly. It's not like it matters. I was just curious, she said. I mean, I had a forest blown on top of me. What could make your injuries worse than mine? She smiled with a little bit of triumph in her voice. Compared to me, you probably just bumped your head and fell to the forest floor. The minute the words left her mouth, however, she regretted it. Naruto's bright, happy blue eyes turned dull with sadness. Tsuyu didn't, for the life of her, know why it bothered her so much to see him like that, but it did. Oi, you okay? Naruto looked back up at her and smiled sadly. My best friend and teammate tried to kill me. And I couldn't keep my promise to another friend to bring him back home after he left to join Orochimaru. Tsuyu felt shame creeping into her chest. Of course, that's why. Look, I'm sorry, okay. I don't. Ah. What's wrong? Naruto asked. The girl had doubled over and was clutching her legs to her chest. Hey, are you okay? He got up and hobbled over to her. Tsuyu had to bite her lip to keep from crying. No, I'm nodding okay. She gasped. Whatever that oil was that Gigi used on me was just wore off. Right now her legs were all pins and needles, and it was unbearable. That's just the blood going back into your legs, Jiraiya said as he came back into camp, his arms full of wood. It'll pass in a few moments. It hurts. Tsuyu whined, tears forming in her eyes. Naruto looked panicked. Ero Sennin, can't you help her? Sorry, Gaki, any more of that toad oil, and she'd start turning into a toad. What? Both children yelled. It's a special oil that gathers a certain type of healing chakra from the environment. After it's done its job, it's dangerous to apply more. I had to wash my hands after I got done with you. But what about soldier pills? Naruto asked. They could help. And make it worse, Jiraiya said, they'll only increase the chakra flow, and her chakra network in her legs is screwed up for now until the oil leaves her system for good. Right now it's pulling the blood back into her legs and repairing the muscle. If it weren't for your abilities, Naruto, I would have used some on you. Then what are we supposed to do? Naruto whined, making Jiraiya grin. What the hell's with that look, you old perv? I thought you didn't like her. Jiraiya smirked, taking out a notepad and pencil. Naruto turned beet red. Shut up. I don't like seeing people in pain. Tsuyu, trying to focus on their words to ignore the pain, felt slightly kinder toward the blonde after hearing that. So much better than that four-eyed back home. It'll stop hurting in a few minutes, Jiraiya said in her direction, just give it some time to work. Then we can get some food into you. AAF few G grains of our rice is go good enough for me. Tsuyu gasped out. Jiraiya grinned at her. You'll get more than a few grains of rice with me around, Gaki. Quote. Tsuyu was startled by that. You mean I'm allowed more? Naruto looked down at her in confusion. What do you mean allowed? She means just what she says, Naruto. Jiraiya told him, reaching for another scroll. She's probably never had a full meal in her time with Orochi-tem. Anko was trained so that she could survive on a single grain of rice for a week at a time and keep going. That's impossible, the blonde scoffed. Don't bet on it, shithead, Tsuyu growled. Would you stop calling me that? Naruto groaned. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. What about you? What about me? She snapped, finding that the pain was going away. Your name, Jiraiya said. Come to think of it, I didn't ask either. The girl blushed slightly as the pain ebbed completely away after another minute. Tsuyu. Just Tsuyu? Jiraiya asked. Yup. The old Sennin smiled at her as he unsealed the scroll, producing a bright red apple which he tossed to her. Well, welcome to the group, Tsuyu. She caught the apple and sat up, not really knowing what to do with it. Thank you. Jiraiya chuckled again and turned to his blonde apprentice. How you doing there, Yaki? Naruto sighed, clutching at his stomach where the Yondaime's seal was. Not good, he said. I think Sasuke's black chakra is affecting my healing abilities. And what has your ability been doing for you so far? Jiraiya asked. Surely it's able to do something. Naruto caught on. He didn't want to Yuya learning about the fox just yet. And for that matter, neither did he. It's just been focusing on me major injury after the Chidori hit my chest. Other than that, the minor cuts and gashes are healing at a normal rate. Yuya listened to the exchange intently, but was growing frustrated with them. What the air you talking about? She glared up at Naruto. You got some kinda keke genkai. He's able to heal himself at a 10 times the normal rate of a human. Jiraiya said, which stunned the girl. It's one of the reasons he was put on the retrieval mission. He's strong, and almost impossible to kill. Yuya looked back up at him with a little more respect. Wow, shithead, I'm impressed. A vein popped up on Naruto's head at being called that name again. Shut up and eat your apple before I do. She quickly bit into the red fruit so he would try and take it, and quickly started biting off bigger chunks until it was gone, core and all. Wow, that was good. Jiraiya laughed. That's just the start. I'm going to make sure you get a proper diet from now on. He tossed her another apple from the scroll, and turned to Naruto, and that goes for you, too, Yaki. No more ramen every meal. What? Naruto whine, but Ero Senin. No buts, or do you want to stay a runt for the rest of your life? Yuya laughed around her apple as Naruto sputtered angrily. The Kyuubi, who'd been listening the whole time, couldn't help laughing at his cantainer's predicament. Oh, this is going to be an interesting trip. But just wait until the spring rolls around, Kit. Then I'll see you suffer just a little for this blasted collar. Naruto lay on his bedroll, sounds asleep, and snoring quietly. A fact that had not gone unnoticed by his furry tenant. The Kyuubi sat on one of the many tree roots that now covered most of his home, just listening to the sound, and watching Naruto dream of beef ramen. Now what kind of monster would I be to disrupt such a tasty dream? He said to himself with a toothy grin, a biju of course. The last thing that Naruto expected to happen while he was sleeping was for a tremendous roar to blast through his head and out both of his ears. The act startled the young shinobi so badly that he jumped up and cleared the tree tops, screaming in fright. This woke up his two companions as well. Yuya came awake first, reaching for her flute, which she'd forgotten lay buried in the forest somewhere. Look out! Yuya recognized the voice after a moment and looked up, a mistake as it turned out when Naruto landed on top of her not a second later. Arg! You tard! What the hell's wrong with you? Yuya yelled like an angry cat, scratching and punching anything she could reach on the unfortunate blonde. Yuya-san, stop! Naruto screamed, I didn't mean it. His flailing hands trying to stop the wild flurry of her arms, to add insult to injury, came into contact with something wonderfully soft. And the bombardment stopped for a moment. Naruto opened his eyes after a moment, and was horrified to find where his hand had landed. And even more so when he saw that Yuya's normally pale complexion had turned an angry red that rivaled that in the Kyuubi's eyes. One tick mark. Naruto suddenly started sweating, and now Yuya-san. 2 tick marks. It was an accident. Pervert. The redhead's fist shot up and cracked him right in the jaw, sending him skyward once again. Naruto's flight was shorter this time as he flew past a very happy Jiraiya, who was scribbling furiously on his notepad as the little scene unfolded. Oh, yes, this is perfect. I think I'll call the next one Ika Habanera. He laughed gleefully as Naruto hit the ground. You alright over there, Yaki? She's scarier than Sakura-chan. The boy twitched, a large bruise forming on his chin. Jiraiya chuckled and put his notes away. Sleep well, Yuya-chan. Great, she muttered, until a blonde shithead landed on me. She tried to get up, but found she couldn't move her legs. What the? Can't move? He asked. She gave him a nod. That's normal for your sort of trauma. It'll take a day or two at the most, but I'm thinking you'll be moving around soon. He turned toward his downed apprentice. What about you? Healed up yet? I don't know, Naruto growled. My ears are sort of ringing right now. Thank you, his tenant said smugly. Baka Fox. What did you have to do that for? It was funny. Not from where I was sleeping. That's what made it so funny. You should have seen the look on your face when you jumped. The fox laughed. I haven't had that much fun since I tried to bite Madara Uchiha in half. Next time, just set an alarm clock. Now I've got Yuya-san mad at me. Oh, boo-hoo, little Kit's mate is mad at him. Mate, what the hell are you talking about? If it makes you feel any better, I approve of her. She's a feisty little vixen. Shut up. Am I healed yet? As a matter of fact, yes, you are. While you were sleeping last night, the last of the cursed chakra leaked out of your body and scattered to the winds. You're back in fighting condition, provided your mate doesn't break you, that is. She's not my, oi, shithead, Tsuyu yelled, snapping out of his thoughts. Stop ignoring me. What? Oh, sorry, Tsuyu-san, what were you saying? It was Jiraiya that answered him. We were both asking how you were feeling. Were you checking yourself with your gift? Yeah, that's right, the blonde said, trying to keep up. It looks like I'm back to 100%. He clenched his fist, then rubbed his jaw. Tsuyu watched in amazement as the fist-shaped bruise she'd caused started to fade rapidly. Holy shit, that's some Kekkei Genkei, she sighed. That old snake would have killed for such a skill. Don't even mention that traitor. Naruto snapped, coming out of his thoughts. He's caused my village too much trouble. He killed the Sandaime Hokage. I know, Tsuyu snapped, looking down at her hands. I was there that day. You, Yaki, enough. Jiraiya was suddenly standing beside him with his hand on his shoulder. What's done is done. Remember, she's out for snake blood now. Yeah, Naruto said, sorry, Tsuyu-san. Tsuyu looked back at him in confusion. What's saying sorry to me for? Alright, Jiraiya said, clapping his hands together. That's enough drama for the morning. Let's get going to the next village so we can get some real rest. Tsuyu-chan still has to recover after all. Naruto narrowed his eyes at his sensei. You just wanna peek in the women's MNYMPH. Shut up, Yaki. Jiraiya had clamped his hand over his mouth. You're just not old enough to appreciate good literature. Oi, what am I supposed to do? Tsuyu asked them. Remember, I still can't walk. Well, Jiraiya said, releasing Naruto, sending him to the ground with a yelp. Since Naruto's back up to strength, he can carry you. What? Naruto yelled. No way. Tsuyu shrieked. That perv tried to grope me. I'm not going near him. I told you that was an accident. This is just too good. The QB laughed, literally thrashing his tails about in glee. Why not kiss and make up? A little smooch might loosen her up. Nay. Will you stay out of this? Naruto yelled mentally. Is that a trick question? I'm literally right in the middle of this, remember? The fox's thundering laughter was starting to give Naruto a headache. What the hell did I do to deserve this? The fox laughed maniacally. You think this is bad? Just wait. I still haven't paid you back for this ridiculous collar. Ha! Naruto didn't like the sound of that at all. Who knew that the QB no Kitsune had such monstrous sense of humor? An hour later. Don't get any ideas, Tsuyu grumbled in his ear. I'm not doing this because I want to. Naruto growled in response as the girl clung to his back and shoulders. You think I'm happy about this? He asked, glaring in front of them at their older companion. I'm only doing this because Ero Sennin told me to. Consider it as part of your training. He shot back over his shoulder with a wide grin. Besides that, you could learn a thing or two from her. Oh yeah, like what? Like how to treat a lady. He grinned perversely. Naruto facepalted. A giant fox with a crazy sense of humor, a perverted Sanin, and a kunoichi with a big mouth. What next? I don't think you should have asked that, Kit. Why? Hold it. Naruto's head snapped up. A man had stepped out onto the road. Naruto was immediately on the defensive. Tsuyu hunkered down behind him, cursing because she didn't have anything to fight with. Not even her flute. The man, however, didn't appear to be a ninja. He wore a loose, tattered kimono, and sported a worn katana at his hip. Jiraiya gave the man a smile. Ohayu, friend. Is there something I can help you with? The man smiled in return. As a matter of fact, there is. You can leave all your money and valuables with me. Otherwise, I can't guarantee your safety. Well, that certainly sounds tempting, Jiraiya said, rubbing his chin in thought, but I'll have to pass, and risk the danger. What the hell is he doing? Tsuyu hissed at Naruto. This guy's a bandit, isn't he? Probably. Naruto hissed back, but Arrow Sennin always gives people a chance to walk away. Naruto grinned. If this comes to a fight, then you'll see just how good he is. As Jiraiya made his intentions clear, the supposed bandit lost his smile. I'm sorry to hear that. You seem like a nice guy, but my friends and I need to make a living. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers. Jiraiya kept the smile on his face as more than 10 armed men stepped out from behind the trees. You understand, of course. Why, of course, Jiraiya shrugged, but you see, this puts me in a rather compromising position. Now I'll have to put you and your men down. They'll rip you to shreds. The bandit smirked. That fancy Hitai is just a bluff. You never see ninja on the road. Oh no. Jiraiya grinned. Then he turned to smile at his two charges. Naruto, Tsuyu-chan, pay attention now. You'll both like what you see next, particularly you, Gaki. Naruto freed one of his arms from holding Tsuyu up on high back and raised a fist to his sensei. Go get him, Arrow Sennin. Oi, I'm gonna fall, you dipshit. Tsuyu cried as she clutched at him. Jiraiya dropped his in Naruto's packs, and held up his hand. Lesson of the day, Gaki's, nature manipulation. Naruto and Tsuyu's eyes widened in interest. To Naruto, it was a familiar stance. What's he doing? Tsuyu asked. Watch. Naruto said. Now, you know that the Rasengan is powerful, Jiraiya said, ignoring the bewildered looks of the bandits, and started to gather chakra in the palm of his hand. The chakra started to spin, forming a ball of dense, screaming power. But did you know that it's actually an incomplete jutsu? A moment after saying this, the Rasengan he held glowed red from the center and expanded out to the edges, and then Rasengan began to turn black as a fairy aura formed around it, like a solar eclipse. He really is a ninja. One of the bandits gasped. Musashi, what'll we do? You'll burn, Jiraiya growled, and leapt toward the leader. Kaden, go and Rasengan. Musashi didn't even have time to react before the jutsu hit him. The result was a fiery tornado that exploded out, incinerating the bandit leader, and engulfing the men foolish enough to stand behind him. Holy shit! Tsuyu screamed, almost causing Naruto to go deaf. What a jutsu! No kidding, Naruto growled. I had no idea the Rasengan could do something like that. But the sight of the devastation caused by the jutsu made his stomach churn. Musashi had gotten off lucky, it seemed, leaving nothing but ashes behind. His followers weren't so lucky. The charred remains of the men standing behind the blast littered the road, while those that had stood farther out had been hit by the flames, leaving them burned beyond help. Tsuyu saw that he'd gone deathly pale. What hell's wrong with you? Never seen a dead man before. Not like this, Naruto admitted shamefully. I've never been one for killing. The remaining bandits had scattered by now, leaving behind their fallen men. Jiraiya dusted off his hands and picked up their bags. Let's go, you two. We need to keep going. You heard him, Tsuyu smirked, patting him on the shoulder. Mush. I will so drop you, Naruto said, but followed after the old man as he started down the road again, trying to ignore the dead bodies. Tsuyu smirked and leaned on him. Come on, you can't tell me you're not liking this. You've got a hot girl on your back, enjoy it. HMPH. Funny you'd want me to enjoy this when you keep calling me names instead of using my real name, Ta Yuya-chan. Naruto smirked at her as the girl blushed at the affectionate term. I'll take that form Gigi, but not you, shithead. She wrapped her arms around his neck, and yanked back, what's my name, Tita Yu-ga-ya S-san. Naruto choked, gasping around her arms. That's better. Tayuya released him. Crazy bit. What was that? Nothing. Naruto yelled. That's what I thought. She smiled smugly. Oi, lovebirds, pick it up. Jiraiya yelled, already far ahead of them. You heard him, Tayuya said, move it, shithead-kun. Kun, Naruto smirked, making her blush again, then he shrugged, well, I guess it's a start. Hang on. Pushing chakra into his feet, he shot forward. Jiraiya saw him coming and smiled. Race you to the next village. You're on. Naruto grinned, forgetting that Tayuya was still clinging to his back, who now had to hold on for dear life as the two ninja poured on the speed. Oi, take it easy. Slow the down. Tayuya yelled, but her voice was torn away by the wind. Oi, shithead. Gigi. Knock it off. Help. Naruto laughed, happy for at least a little payback. You know she's gonna kill you when you stop, don't you? The QB asked. I know, but this is worth it after getting strangled. Naruto grinned. This, opposed to that pink-haired vixen back in Konoha. Leave Sakura-chan out of this. He snapped, she's not that bad. Sure. The fox droned, all she did was hit you whenever you got in the way of her and that Uchiha brat who put not one, but two holes in your chest. Face it, Kit, you're better off with this red vixen than the pink one. She's fun. Can we drop my love life, please? Besides, she hates me. O ye of little faith. Hate can turn into love faster than I destroy a village. Besides that, she doesn't hate you. Believe me, I am nothing but hatred personified. If I had to guess, I'd say she's leaning toward trusting you. So what? She's traveling with us and she doesn't trust us. She doesn't trust you, Kit, the fox clarified. The old man saved her life and healed her wounds, so she knows he means no harm. You on the other hand fought with. I take that back. You didn't fight her, you jumped over her. Ah, shut up, I was in a hurry. She's probably still sore about being ignored in a fight like that. Either way, I'm going to take a nap. I suggest you watch where you're going. What are you? Oi, watch where you're going. Tayuya screamed. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts, and came face to trunk with a tree. 10 minutes later Naruto was nursing more than his bruised pride, but lots of lumps on his head thanks to Tayuya after he'd collided with the tree while he'd been conversing with the fox. The fox, of course, thought this was hilarious and made it a point of laughing loudly enough that Naruto's ears were ringing more than when he'd gotten hit. Do that again, and I swear I'll kill you. Tayuya threatened him with another rap on the head. How the could you not see that tree? Seriously, are you an idiot? Jiraiya laughed while scribbling furiously in his notepad again, introducing the Leaf's #1 most unpredictable, hyperactive, knucklehead ninja, Naruto Uzumaki. This made Naruto feel worse as Tayuya started laughing at his title. Serious? Yup. Jiraiya told her as they continued walking, but I find that being unpredictable is one of his best qualities. Naruto smiled at that, happy with the compliment. Kakashi said the same thing, he thought. So, Jiraiya said, what did you two think of my Rasengan? Naruto perked up at the mention of the jutsu. That was awesome. When did you make it? Tayuya muscled her way above his head. Yeah, that was sweet. I've never seen a jutsu like that. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, both of you will learn how to do that on this trip, just as soon as Tayuya-chan is recovered. Jiraiya laughed, watching as the two of them broke into smiles. That reminds me, Tayuya, what kind of jutsu do you specialize in? Tayuya blushed. Well, I used a flute to cast genjutsu, and I have a summoning contract with the Doki tribe. That will have to change, Jiraiya said. Those monsters have been known to attack their summoner often, which is why so few carry the contract. I'll have you speak with Bunta about signing the Toad contract. As for the Genjutsu, that's fine. We'll find you a suitable flute. And then we'll work on your ninjutsu. Tayuya frowned. I suck at ninjutsu. Not for long, Naruto said, smiling back at her. I can even teach you the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu if you want. You know a B rank jutsu like that. Tayuya was skeptical. Next, I suppose you'll tell me that you can do a Rasengan. He does, actually, Jiraiya said, surprising her, though he has to use a Bunshin to help him. But it's still powerful. Yeah, I'm awesome, Datbeo. Huh, must be a Ing C rank jutsu then. Tayuya muttered. Actually, Jiraiya said, catching her, it's an A- rank, and it was created by my own student and the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Tayuya smirked and reached around to pinch Naruto's cheek, and this shrimp can use it. Not bad, shithead-kun. Could you please use my name? Naruto huffed, twisting his face out of her grip. This is annoying. Your shithead as long as I'm around, Tayuya laughed, grabbing both his cheeks and giving them both a good pull. That was enough for Naruto, who released his hold on her legs. Tayuya shrieked loudly as she slid down his back, and bumped her bottom on the ground. That hurt, you jackass. The hell's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Naruto growled back. I've been nice this whole trip and you done nothing but insult me. Jiraiya laughed at the two as they started up another argument, and went to find a tree to sit under until they were done. At this point, Tayuya was trying to get her legs back under herself. But the girl was still weak after being stuck under that tree, and kept stumbling back to the ground. Naruto jeered at her each time, laughing loudly with each bump. Tayuya was in a blind rage after that, and finally succeeded in standing, wobbling toward the taunting blonde. Jiraiya was about to intervene when Tayuya tripped and lost her balance. Jiraiya winced. It would be a bad fall with such a rocky road. Naruto noticed this, too, and lunged forward and got under her, keeping her upright. Oh, Jiraiya hummed in interest. The fall had brought her face very close to his own, which caused a blush he hadn't seen since he'd surprised Hinata while hanging from the academy ceiling. It made her look cute. I'd be more worried about myself if I were you right now, the fox said as he watched the little scene unfold, though he was just as interested as the old Sennin. With that temper of hers she might attack you. Shut up, Kyubi, he said quietly. Not really caring. At this point he'd earned a beating after taunting her like he'd done. But Tayuya was too surprised by the fact that he'd caught her before she fell to even get angry at him. Sorry, he muttered, then leaned up to set her back on her feet. I didn't mean to go that far. Fine, shithead, Tayuya said, adopting her usual scowl, and slung her arm around his shoulder. Now help me walk. I can't keep being carried around. Right, he said, and wrapped his arm around her surprisingly slim waist, which made her blush deeper. Oi, Arrow Sennin. How much further to the village? Jiraiya smiled at them for a moment and pointed on down the road. Not much further, and when we get there, we can begin your training. Both of you. At the village, Tayuya gladly fell onto the soft futon that had been laid out for them. Man, this feels so good, she said happily. I never want to sleep on the ground again. Jiraiya walked into the room chuckling at the girl's antics. Well, you can bet that I'll try to keep us in comfort while we travel, dear. But I can't promise it'll always be this way. The hotel they'd found was a fairly nice one, though, much to the Sennin's disappointment, it didn't have an onsen so he could perform his research, but it had good food and plenty of warm bedding against to coming fall weather. Tayuya giggled softly as she snuggled down into the futon. I honestly don't care. I had a really ed-up training regiment that made me sleep in worse things than the woods. She sat up, looking around the room. Oi, where's shithead-kun? Washing up, Jiraiya said, sitting down on his own futon. Why? Missing his broad shoulders. Jiraiya laughed. Tsuyu flipped him the bird. As if. She said, I still haven't forgot about him touching my chest. Jiraiya grinned. Oh come on. That Gaki wouldn't know what to do with a woman. Even if she told him. You're kidding, right? She asked. Most villages let their ninja marry young to keep th population going, don't they? That would be the case, but our village has had too many troubles these past years, such as the destruction of the Uchiha clan, and the death of the last Hokage. And now we've lost the last living member of the Uchiha to Orochimaru. He said, counting off the events in his mind. None of the younger generation has even thought about it. Tsuyu scoffed, and no one thought to hurry up and force the Uchiha Tem to marry. Jiraiya nodded. The council did have that idea, which would have invoked the Clan Restoration Act, giving the boy quite a harem. Sick, Tsuyu muttered, what woman would want to share her man? Jiraiya smirked at her. I know a few in the village that wouldn't have minded, as long as they got Sasuke as a husband. I repeat, sick. Jiraiya chuckled. You know, you remind me of girl I watched grow up long ago. He sighed, thinking back on the memories. She was one hell of a firecracker. Red-headed, too. Tsuyu narrowed her eyes at the old man, and crossed her arms over her chest. Look, Gigi, I'm grateful and all, but I'm no one's buddy. This caused Jiraiya to howl with laughter, and Tsuyu shivered. No, I didn't mean it like that, Tsuyu-chan. He chuckled. I'm just making a comparison. I was already old when she was a child. And she grew up right in front of me, and married one of my students. He shook his head. They were the closest thing I had to children. Tsuyu drew her legs up to her chest. You seem pretty close to Naruto. Oh, Jiraiya laughed, pointing at her. You finally said his name. Tsuyu blushed. Shut the hell up. Still chuckling, Jiraiya raised his hands, giving in. You're right, he and I are close. He said, smiling, I think of him like a grandson. With Naruto. Naruto sank deeper into the tub, letting the hot water relax his muscles. Damn, I never thought a girl could be so heavy. He reached up and pounded lightly on his right shoulder, but at least we made it. Kit. What now? Naruto sighed. I'm trying to relax. I need to talk to you. The QB snapped. Now get in here. Geez, alright already. He winced when the QB roared at him. He closed his eyes and let himself be drawn back into his mind. But instead of a tree branch or the ground, he found himself sitting in a very large onsen hidden under the trees. He looked around in surprise and found the QB lounging happily in the deeper end. About time, Kit. We need to talk, he said when he saw the blonde. What is it now? You know I've had a hell of a day because of you. Forget about that for now, Kit. You remember what the old man told you about feeding your body properly? Yeah, he said I could eat as much ramen as I used to. As you should, the QB snapped. Anyway, since he's going to be managing what you eat from now on, I thought I'd let you know that I'll be pushing your growth out as well. What do you mean, push? I mean that in the next month, I'm going to make sure that you're at least a foot taller. You can do that, yes, and from I've been able to learn from your body, you should be about 6'1" by the time you're 16. Do you realize how stunted you are? You're barely 5 feet tall right now. Really? Again? Yes, so be prepared, Kit. You're in for some intense growing pains. Naruto looked up at the massive fox. This is still payback for the collar, isn't it? Actually, no, that I'll save for later. And I have a feeling that you might actually enjoy it. Naruto shivered, not liking the sound of that at all. When Naruto had finished speaking with the QB, his bath had already gotten cold, and he was hungry. He got out of the water and found that he was the only one left in the room. The fox must have kept me in there for a while. He thought. Wonder if there's anything left for dinner. Wrapping a towel around his waist, he made his way to the dressing room to find the kimono the hotel had provided them. When he was dressed and entered the hall, there was no one in sight, and the sun had gone down. Great. Just how long was I in there? Next time I see that fox, I'll shave his tails. The fox in question chuckled darkly as he caught the thoughts running through his jailer's mind. Naruto sighed and went to his room instead of making his way to the dining hall, seeing no sense in bothering the kitchen staff. He looked down at his clothes. The orange jumpsuit looked terrible after Sasuke had gotten done with him. It was filled with holes and tears from all the fighting. Thinking on it, he figured it was time to get something new. Something less orange would be good. The Kyuubi said. Something that doesn't scream, "Here I am. Come kill me." Nay. Don't you ever shut up? Naruto asked, deciding think about it in the morning. But the clothes were ruined either way. Tsuyu will need clothes, too. That thought made him blush. The girl didn't seem to notice, but her clothes were washer off than his were, and just a little embarrassing depending where you looked. Oh ho. Thinking about your future mate, Kit. I have to say that she'd make a fine kitsune. Couldn't you just imagine her with whiskers? Shut up, Kyuubi. I'm not in the mood for your jokes. Well, you seem to be having some very interesting thoughts of her right now. Though I'm suppressing them for the moment. I don't need you passing out from lack of blood and giving me more work to do. Yeah, right, like I'd think about that loud-mouthed little brat. She may be that way now, Kit, but she will grow. She reminds me of my former Jinchuriki host. And there is no denying your attraction to her after what happened earlier today. Or do you think I missed how your heart skipped a beat, or the thought of her being cute ran through your mind? That doesn't matter. Baka Kyuubi, I like Sakura. Glutton. The fox said. Naruto sighed, shutting off his connection to the Biju and crept down the hall. While Tsuyu had curled up and fallen asleep, Jiraiya had stayed up to wait for Naruto. Oi, where've you been all this time? He asked when the door slid open as the young blonde walked into the room. Sorry, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head, my friend wanted to talk to me. Jiraiya nodded, understanding. Is there anything left from dinner? Jiraiya pointed to a tray of food at the edge of his futon. I had the housekeeper bring that here after we missed you, he said, grinning. I almost had to keep Tsuyu-chan from eating it. Naruto nodded gratefully and sat down to eat. I've wanted to ask, Naruto said, picking up his chopsticks, how could she survive on a few pieces of rice like she said she could? That's a fair question, Jiraiya said thoughtfully. I've heard of monks that can do it with lots of training and discipline, but I have a feeling it's more of a mind-over-matter thing. Tsuyu probably had the help of some drug enhancements from Orochimaru while her training went on. It's why she's not malnourished like some people would be at that age. See, Gaki, when that snake gets a hold of someone he deems useful, he'll make sure he can use them at their fullest, not matter how far he has to go. Unfortunately, our new friend is probably going to suffer for it soon. Why? Naruto asked, looking up from his meal, and not liking what he heard. Jiraiya sighed and gave the boy a sad look. Naruto, have you ever seen what happens to someone that's had drugs used on them most of their life, and they're suddenly cut off? Naruto shook his head. I didn't think so. To put it mildly, she's about to go through the pits of hell. She might not even be able to control her body. And then there's the hallucinations. Naruto shivered. Kami, I hate that bastard. Is that what's going to happen to Sasuke? Most likely, Jiraiya nodded. Remember, though, he'll want Sasuke in perfect health because of his body transfer jutsu. He'll just be conditioning him into a fighter. Okay, so what'll we do? I mean Sasuke's getting stronger every minute he spends with him. Naruto said. That's where this training comes in, Jiraiya said. Remember I told you that I'd help you harness the power of the fox. Naruto nodded again. Good. Then you'll know that the more of his chakra you can use safely, the stronger you'll become. Right. The blonde nodded, looking over at the sleeping girl. What can we do to help her? Sighing, Jiraiya said, there's not much we can do, I'm afraid. no healing ninjutsu I've heard of can lighten what's about to happen. And I'm warning you, it won't be pretty. Naruto smiled. Well, it's like you said, we can't just leave her, nay. Jiraiya smiled at that as the boy finished his meal. That reminds me, Kyuubi told me that he'd be messing with my growth soon to catch me up. Apparently I'm supposed to grow a foot by the end of the month. Gay. Jiraiya blanched. Gaki, you know how much that's gonna hurt. You'll almost be as bad as Tayuya-chan. Nah, I'm sure the old fur ball won't make it that bad. Naruto said, giving him a fox-like grin. Jiraiya rolled his eyes and settled down for the night. Naruto followed suit, quickly falling asleep to Jiraiya's loud snoring. While the boy slept, however, the Kyuubi started his work. Fur ball, Well, let's see how you handle your first growth spurt. The next morning, Jiraiya woke up to the sound of pained groaning from both young shinobi. What the? He jolted up, throwing of the blanket, and looked over at his charges. His eyes immediately fell on Yuya, who'd thrown off her blanket, and nearly wriggled out of her kimono in her attempts to cool down. The girl's body was covered in sweat, and her cheeks were flushed with fever, making her breathing labored. Shit, I didn't think it'd happen this fast. Jiraiya growled, kneeling beside her. Yuya, can you hear me? The girl opened her eyes, which were red and bloodshot, and looked up at him. Gigi, I don't feel right. She gasped. I feel so hot. Jiraiya reached out and patted her forehead. Just take it easy, and I'll get you some help. He looked over at Naruto and groaned. Ah, shit, Naruto, not you, too. Naruto, for his part, was trying to move, but his body wouldn't allow it. He was on his elbows and knees, curling into himself, and trying to get up. That fox. Naruto gasped. I'm sticking him right back in his cage when see him again. He groaned again and fell over onto his side. Damn it. I warned you it would be bad. Jiraiya growled. Now I have 2 sick Gakis to look after. What's wrong with Tayuya-chan? Naruto moaned. She's drying up, Jiraiya said simply, and it's causing a bad fever. He got up and strode to the door. I'll be back. I need to find someone to help me with her, and you, for that matter. Neither of you will be moving for a while. Tayuya watched him go, her vision blurred by the heat of the fever. She looked over at the blonde boy who had started struggling to get up again. Oi. Shit. Head, Kun. What's wrong? Just a little muscle stress, he groaned, managing to get his right foot under him. You okay, Tayuya-chan? Don't call me that, she yelled, some of her energy coming back to her, but then she fell into a coughing fit. Shit. This is bad. She thought. What's happening to me? Her body felt like it was on fire, and her skin was stinging her whenever she moved. Naruto slowly moved over to her side, careful not to let his dragging feet catch in the futons, and knelt beside her. Can I get anything for you? Don't be bother, she said, you're just as bad as I am, shithead K-kun. Naruto nodded, and sat beside her. His face reddened a little as he took in her state of dress, or lack thereof. Thankfully Tayuya was too out of it for her to notice. Like what you see, Kit. Shut it. This isn't the time for your jokes. But the Kyuubi just smiled his toothy smile as Naruto's eyes remained on the girl. Naruto hadn't ever seen a girl's body before now, but even now when she was sick, he knew that Tayuya was a beauty. Her heaving chest brought back memories of the previous day and all the times she'd pressed herself against his back, and the feeling of his hand on her. No. Bad. Don't turn into Arrow Sennin. Naruto shook his head. Face it, Kit, you're attracted to her. Kyuubi growled, you're more stubborn than the Sanbi. Should I even care who or what that is? That would be the three-tailed turtle, one of my siblings, though he is the laziest creature I have ever had the displeasure to know. Speaking of displeasure, when are you going to tell the vixen our little secret? The Kyuubi growled, if you two are going to train together, then she'll need to know about me sooner or later. Don't remind me. Naruto sighed, then groaned as a fresh bout of pain hit him. And can't you do anything about this? The demon fox merely laughed and went silent, leaving Naruto to suffer. Sadistic flea bag. No. Naruto whipped his head at the frightened shriek and found Tsuyu thrashing around with her arms around her face as if she was warding off something. Tsuyu. Naruto gasped, scrambling over. Tsuyu, what is it? No. Get away. She swung at him, barely clipping his cheek. What the hell's the matter with you? I don't wanna do it anymore. She screamed, it hurts. Please stop. What? Naruto was stunned. What hurts, Tsuyu? He leaned over her into her line of sight. Tsuyu looked up at him with wild fear. In her state of mind, what she saw was Orochimaru and Kabuto leaning over her with a syringe and scalpel. Cuckoo, but Tsuyu-chan, we still have so much to do. Orochimaru said as the needle descended. No, please. Oi, Naruto, as she lashed out again. He caught her wrist and pulled her to him. Tsuyu, look, you're safe. It's me. Remember? Shithead-kun. She fought him, naturally, still caught in her delusions, but felt the familiar warmth and strength as he wrapped his arms around her. Her fighting stopped after a moment, to Naruto's relief, and she broke into shuddering sobs. Mother. Oh boy, he sighed, sensing another round of violence. But the girl remained relatively calm in his arms as she cried. Easy, Tsuyu. He stroked her hair soothingly. Remember, you'll always be safe with us. He said, holding her tightly, we'll protect you. Just stay with us. Tsuyu felt the comforting sensation of someone patting her hair and sighed, moving closer, inadvertently, into Naruto's chest. Who is that? She wondered. Naruto. With that, she drifted off into a blissfully dreamless sleep. Naruto sighed in relief as the girl drifted off. He didn't know how much more punishment his body could handle after his muscles settled into his new size. He moved to lay her back down so she could sleep more comfortably, but the girl clung to him in her sleep, moaning in protest when he tried to pry her off, which left him with few options. Great. What if she wakes up with me here? But seeing the peaceful look on Tsuyu's face made him want to keep it that way. You might as well lay with her, Kit. Her pain isn't over yet, though the worst has passed. She get angry if she wakes up in my arms. He pointed out. But you want her to be comfortable, nay. I can sense a great amount of fear radiating from the vixen. Much like the hatred radiating from the Uchiha brat's chakra when the curse mark took him. Naruto sighed in defeat. The fox had him pinned, and he really didn't want to see her screaming again. And she felt so fragile clinging to him like that while her body was still flushed with fever. Damn it. The fox grinned as his jailer laid them both gently down as the girl curled into him. Within minutes Naruto fell asleep, ignoring the pain in his throbbing body caused by his growth. This is how Jiraiya found them when he returned minutes later with an older woman in tow carrying a bowl of water and a cloth to keep the girl cool. Jiraiya smiled at the sight of them. Tsuyu had snaked her arms around Naruto's waist in her sleep, burrowing her face into his chest. Well, isn't that a cute thing to see? The woman cooed, kneeling down to the girl's side. Are they a couple? Jiraiya smirked. Not yet, but give it time. She smiled and moved Tsuyu's hands gently, drawing a little moan of protest from her. Will you be able to help her, Tomo-san? The woman frowned as she took in the girl's condition, charging her hands with blue-green chakra and passing it over the girl's body. This child is going through a severe withdrawal. Jiraiya hissed. Tomo smiled up at him. Do not worry. It seems she's coming out of it rather quickly. How is that possible? Jiraiya asked, astonished. Withdrawal usually lasts for quite some time. Tomo shook her head. I'm not sure, but it seems this boy's chakra may be leaking into her and purging the toxins from her system. Is he an Uzumaki? He is. Jiraiya nodded. I knew that they had very large chakra reservoirs, but I didn't think they could do such things as this. Indeed, Jiraiya-sama, they could. Tomo said, smiling. Some branches of the family were able to heal the physical injuries, and restore the chakra of others by allowing them to bite a part of their bodies. Others could heal illness by forcing the chakra through the ailing person's system, as this boy is unconsciously doing now. Jiraiya said thoughtfully, it's a shame, though. He's the last of his clans. Truly, she said, they were wonderful people if my memory serves me correctly. She reached out and brushed a few golden locks away from the blonde's face. It's strange, though, I always knew the Uzumakis to have red hair like this girl does, yet his is blonde. His mother had red hair, Jiraiya said quietly, then bowed to her, thank you for coming. I was at my wit's end when Tayuya-chan became sick. Tomo smiled at him again, and reached for the cloth to dip it into the water. Think nothing of it, I'm happy to put my old skills to use after so long. She said as she began washing the sweat from Tayuya's face and neck. I noticed that her legs had recently been healed from being broken. Was that your doing? It was, he nodded, I'm proficient in a bone-setting jutsu that even works on shattered bone. Plus I applied a special oil that heals muscles, gashes and skin abrasions. You did a good job, Tomo said, impressed, there's almost no bone damage left. Jiraiya sighed in relief, good to know I was able to help. He noticed that Tayuya kept one hand clasped on Naruto's kimono, her fingers barely touching the skin. I wonder if it's really his own ability, or the Kyuubi's influence. Is chakra still flowing into her? Yes, but it's just the bare minimum now, since she's just barely touching him, she said, moving down the girl's body. Tayuya jumped when Tomo reached her ribs. Oh, someone's a little ticklish. She giggled girlishly. Be sure to tell the boy that. Jiraiya smirked. You little devil. The next morning Tayuya's eyes fluttered open after the strangest dream she'd ever had. She dreamed that someone was holding her, and running their hand through her hair and whispering to her in a comforting voice, which made even stranger when she opened her eyes and came face to face with a chest. What the? Awake? Are you? She twisted around and found Jiraiya sitting by the window. Good. How are you feeling, Tayuya-chan? How do I feel? She said, her mind still fogged with sleep. I think I feel good. She smiled, starting to wake up properly. Better that good. I feeling great. Jiraiya chuckled. That's good to hear. He got up and placed his hand on her forehead. Your fever's gone. I have to admit, the Gaki's got a real gift. The hell you talkin' about, Gigi? She asked, and he pointed over to her side. She sat up, feeling something slip off her waist. What the? She jumped up and whirled around. Jiraiya laughed loudly, not even disturbing the still sleeping Naruto. Surprised. Jiraiya snickered. Yeah, what the hell's he doing in my bed? She yelled, and with his arms around me. Calm down, Jiraiya said, trying to soothe the irate Kunoichi, he actually helped you. Remember that healing ability of his? Yeah, she raised an eyebrow at him. Well, and don't tell him this, she looked at him in surprise, I know it doesn't make sense, but his head already too big for his shoulders. She snickered at that and nodded. Alright, last night, and I don't know what led to it, but you two wound up with your arms around each other. While you were passed out, some of Naruto's chakra forced its way into you and purged everything Orochimaru drugged you with out of your body. Tayuya looked back down at the sleeping blonde. Holy shit, just what kind of Kekkei Genkei is that? Something he doesn't need to know about yet. Jiraiya said, earning a questioning look from her. He tries too hard when it comes to helping someone, and if he knew of the ability, then he'd probably kill himself. So, she said, he stayed with me all night. Actually, Jiraiya smiled widely, you wouldn't let go of him when I came back. Bullshit, Tayuya yelled, reaching down to throw a pillow at him, which he dodged easily. There's no way I'd do that. If you say so, Tayuya-chan, he chuckled. Anyway, why don't you go take a bath? The medical ninja I found last night cleaned you up nicely, but a nice hot bath will probably feel nice. HMPH. The girl strode out of the room, slamming the door shut, and waking up Naruto, finally, who looked around groggily. What's going on? He asked sleepily. Nothing, Jiraiya said, grinning, just teasing Tayuya-chan. You feeling better this morning? Yeah, actually, he rotated his shoulders, the fox must have finished with me. Do I look any taller? He stood up, letting the old man see. Jiraiya stepped around him, sizing the boy up. You know, I think you are just a little taller. 5'2" I think. All that, and for so little. Naruto whined. You're welcome, you ungrateful kid. Naruto ignored the fox, and looked around for Tayuya, and not seeing her. Oi, Arrow Sennin, where's Tayuya? Is she okay? She's fine, Yaki, and she just stepped out to take a bath. Jiraiya said, smiling at the boy, I must say, you two looked pretty cute laying there together. Then he broke out laughing as the blonde's face bordered apple red. Oh come on, Yaki, what magic did you use on her? Shut up. He stomped out of the room, I'm gonna go get some food. No ramen. Jiraiya yelled after him, hearing the boy stumble when he did. Ah, this is gonna be such a fun trip. Chuckling to himself, he followed the boy's example and went to see about breakfast. Tayuya grumbled as she scrubbed her skin furiously. I can't believe I clung to that baka. She thought angrily. This is all Orochi Tem's fault. In hell, he probably thinks I'm some weak little now. She reached for a bucket and poured its contents over herself, drenching her from head to toe. But, she thought, calming herself a little, it felt really nice. And warm. She remembered dreaming of someone patting her hair. Was that him? Alright, Yakis, today is the day, the Toad Sennin said happily, we'll be working on improving those skills of yours. Before him stood two very excited shinobi dressed in karate gis in light of them not having descent clothing anymore. First, Naruto, show Tayuya how to do the Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Hi. Naruto eagerly made the clone seal, Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Tayuya watched in awe as over 100 puffs of white smoke exploded all around them, followed by over 100 Narutos. A moment later he undid the jutsu. Jiraiya smiled at the stunned girl's expression but clapped his hands, impressive as always, Yaki, a little excessive but impressive. Tee-hee, thanks, he said, then looked over at Tayuya, still think it was bull. Ah shut the up, Tayuya snapped, if a dumbass like you can do it, then there's no way I can lose. She clapped her hands together, forming the seal. Hold it, Jiraiya shouted, startling her, Tayuya, before you try to imitate him, you should know he has an unusually large chakra reservoir, so it's only natural that he produces this many clones. He said, I want you to keep it simple, and try for at least one bushin for the first try. Ah, she whined. She formed the seal again, Kage Bushin no Jutsu. The same puff of smoke appeared, along with another Tayuya. Yeah. Both yelled and high-fived each other. Well done. Jiraiya laughed, that's impressive considering that this was your first try. Now, what I want you to do is work on how many bushins you're able to summon, but don't overdo it. Jiraiya warned. Remember, you're still recovering, and I wouldn't want you suffering from chakra exhaustion. Hi, Gigi. Both Tayuyas said. What about me? Naruto asked. Jiraiya smiled evilly at him, making the blonde gulp. You, Yaki, will be working on your Rasengan. Naruto sighed with relief. Oh, don't look so please. You will be working on performing the jutsu without your bushins, and using only one hand. What? Naruto whined, but you know I can't do it without them. That's the problem, Yaki. Jiraiya snapped, holding out his hand and forming his own Rasengan. Look at that, one hand, no bushin, simple, yet you have to rely on a bushin to help with the power and containment of the chakra needed to form this jutsu, giving you less chakra to work with in the long run. If you can do it the way I can, you'll have more shots if you miss your target. Naruto's face fell. Yeah, I guess. That, Tayuya thought, was harsh. Even if he is right about it. When will I learn it? She asked, her face lighting up. As soon as you can produce 10 bushin without exhausting yourself. Jiraiya said, grinning, pulling out a scroll from his robes, and opening it on the ground. Kai. 2 large boxes appeared, one filled with small rubber balls, and the other with what looked like water balloons. He tossed a ball to Naruto. You know the drill, right? Yeah, he said, catching it, so no bushins at all. Now that I didn't say, Jiraiya said, which confused him, I know I said you weren't allowed to use them to form the jutsu, but you can use them in a different way. Really? How? Naruto asked eagerly. The Kage Bushin no Jutsu is unique among that type of jutsu, because when one is dispelled, the memories and experiences are immediately sent back to the caster. He said, still grinning. Such as progress on a certain A-rank jutsu. You mean if we do something right that helps the jutsu along, Tayuya said, we dispel the Bushin that had that bit of progress and we get it from them. Bingo, the old man smiled, which is why I'd like you to be able to do 10 bushins without much chakra exhaustion so you can properly form the Rasengan. It's such a dense amount of chakra, it took the Yondaime 3 years to complete it. Screw that, Tayuya smirked, I won't need that long. 1 hour later. This is impossible. An exhausted redhead snapped as she gasped for breath from the ground where she lay. How the hell did you even get this down, shithead? Would you keep it down? I'm trying to concentrate. Naruto grunted. So far, the two were in the same boat. While Tayuya could create 2 bushins without a problem, 10 was a stretch. She'd started feeling dizzy when she reached 4, which pissed her off and caused her to go all out, producing 8 bushins, and immediately falling over, dispelling the jutsu. Naruto wasn't having any luck either. Out of the 30 bushins he'd created, none of them had made progress with a one-handed Rasengan yet. He had the rotation down, yet when it came to the power needed to burst open one of the rubber balls, he only succeeded in making the ball convulse but not burst. Suddenly, Oi, I did it! One of the bushins shouted, raising a cheer from the others. Naruto quickly dispelled the jutsu. However, once all the bushins were gone, the exhaustion hit him like a ton of bricks. Gahahe, Naruto groaned, I think I overdid it. Jiraiya had been watching them from the shade of a tree as their training session had gone on, and he was pleasantly surprised by the progress, even if he wouldn't admit it yet. See that, Minato, he thought, he's growing up to be a splendid shinobi right in front of me. Just like you. He laughed when Tayuya wobbled over and started pestering the blonde for tips on the Kage Bushin no Jutsu, and Naruto just whined for her to leave him alone and let him rest. He chuckled at Tayuya's antics when the girl tried to pull Naruto to his feet, only to get dragged down herself in her own weakness. Oi! Watch your hands! Get off of me! Naruto yelled. I'm not on you! Tayuya yelled. Oi! Jiraiya yelled. Knock it off! You're supposed to be training. Shut up! Both teens yelled. A tick mark popped up on his head as he got up and strode toward the squabbling pair. They didn't see him coming and kept arguing about whom was on whom until a shadow passed over them, causing the two to look up at an irritated Sannin. Gakis. Jiraiya cracked his knuckles loudly. Naruto and Tayuya gulped. Rule number 1. Always respect your sensei. The day ended with 2 tired and beat-up teens returning to their room at the hotel and falling onto their futons. This hell. Tayuya muttered tiredly. I almost miss Orochimaru. This is nothing, Naruto muttered, he threw me off a cliff once. Me? Tayuya moaned, why would he do that? So I could summon a toad. Naruto said simply. Making the girl paler than usual. He's not gonna do that to me, is he? She asked. Nope, he groaned, your chakra control's better than mine, so no extreme measures. Thanked Kami for that, she sighed, good night, shithead-kun. Are you ever going to use my name? Hell no. Tayuya grinned. Naruto scowled at her for a minute, only causing her to grin wider until she burst out laughing. Nice face, shithead-kun. Naruto growled, but couldn't stay angry and ended up smiling, glad you like my face. Jiraiya was strolling through the little village in hopes of finding something worth researching, but there was nothing, unfortunately. Next village we go to is gonna have an onsen. He sighed dejectedly. Jiraiya-sama. The old man whipped around at his name. No one was there. Down here. Jiraiya jumped a little and looked down to find a little blue and black toad. Gamatori. The one and only, the toad said, I've got a message from one of your spies. Oh, Jiraiya said in interest, a scroll. No, I was told to give it to you verbally, as much sense as that makes, but here it is. Gamatori looked around, making sure no one was near. Apparently one of Orochimaru's bases was found recently. And from the looks of it, it's one of his older ones. Can you tell me anything about it? Jiraiya asked, his tone serious now. Yeah, it's one of his breeding camps. Gamatori shivered, disgusting. Breeding humans like they were cattle. I agree, he said, this will need to be looked into, but I have to make sure the kids are alright before that. You mean Naruto? Gamatori asked. Just take him. No, it's not just Naruto anymore. Jiraiya explained. A few hours out of the village after we set out, I came across a girl and brought her along with us. Turns out she was one of Orochimaru's Sound 4. Now she's got a score to settle with the old snake. Ah, no wonder you wanna go it alone. The toad said, nodding. Why not just scope it out to see if it's safe first, then come back for the Gakis? Not a bad idea, but I'm a little unsure of leaving them alone. It won't take long, just a month. Gamatori said, then you can decide whether or not to take them in. You're right, and I think I've got an idea to keep them out of trouble. Jiraiya said, smiling, and it'll help them train. You want us to what? Jiraiya winced at the blonde's voice. Just what I said, Naruto. For the next month, you and Tayuya-chan will be hunting down Nukenin of Chunin rank. Tayuya frowned. Dandy, but what about you, Gigi? My spy network picked up some info that I need to check out. He said, I'll pack and leave tomorrow morning. And we're just supposed to wait here? Naruto asked, to which Jiraiya nodded. That's just great, you dragged me out here to train me, and now you're running off on us. Naruto, he said evenly, what I'm checking out is one of Orochimaru's hideouts. That got both teens' attention. Naruto jumped up. Do you think Sasuke's there? What about Orochi Tem? Tayuya growled. I want a shot at that Clam up and calm down you two. Jiraiya roared, clapping them both on the shoulders and knocking them down. Now listen up. Fact 1. No, I don't know if Sasuke is there, or Orochimaru for that matter. Fact 2. If either of them were, neither one of you is strong enough to take them on. Naruto, you were literally torn apart last time you faced Sasuke. And Tayuya, don't even try Orochimaru. Like me, he is a Sannin, and just as strong, if not stronger than me. But, both whined. No buts. Jiraiya growled. You'll move to the next town and find an inn there, and keep up your training, and hunting. The purpose for the hunting of the Nukenin is two-fronted. On one half you'll be facing off against strong opponents and pushing yourselves to the limit. And on the other, you'll be earning money for yourselves. I'll only be gone a month, and by the time I get back, if you haven't taken down at least 3 ninja, then you won't be coming with me on the infiltration. Hi. Both droned. Jiraiya smiled. Oi, don't look so down. I'm not doing this because I don't have faith in your abilities, I just want you to be safe. Okay. Naruto relented, but how are we going to tell if someone's a Nukenin? I'll leave you my bingo book, Jiraiya said, that should be all you need. Kyuubi. Naruto asked mentally, what do you think about this? He heard the Biju groan as if his question had woken him from a nap. Such a troublesome thing to ask, Kit. You want to become stronger, nay. Then you'll need to fight stronger opponents than yourself, and surpass your own limits to do so. I guess so, he thought, thinking back on his fight with Sasuke. That power you gave me back then, would I be able to use it again? The Kyuubi's ears perked up at that. The chakra shroud was the only thing that he would allow the blonde, given the power of the Tori seal holding him there, but if he used it more. That shroud could easily kill you, Kit. You may use it, but not all the time. Remember this. My chakra, my very body was created from hatred, Kit. As were all of my brethren and my predecessor from which we all came. Naruto gulped, not liking the sound of the fox's words. As I said, Kit, you may use it, but only in dire emergencies. See what hatred has done to the young Uchiha, no, their entire cursed clan. Now only 2 remain from the ruins, and both wish for the other's demise as far as I know. Then I'll agree to that. I just want to be ready if I have to fight him again, or someone that's close to his strength. The Kyuubi grinned and nodded, neglecting to tell him that using his chakra would weaken the seal and, eventually, release him. I may not hate you as much as most humans, Kit, but that does not mean that I don't hate you at all. Use my chakra as you will, but it will lead you to your death by my freedom. Tsuyu found herself becoming nervous as the night wore on while she laid in bed with Jiraiya and Naruto snoring away on either side of her. She was unused to such noise at night, yet she found it more comforting than the screams and moans from her former home. She felt safe, much safer than she had back then, without the need to worry about who or what might be creeping along the corridors. Or if she would have to examined by either Orochimaru or Kabuto. But now Jiraiya would be leaving, for one of Orochimaru's compounds, and she didn't know if he'd return. In her thoughts the last few days had been like a little slice of heaven for her. She'd eaten more than she'd thought possible, and she'd found that she liked the people she was now with. Jiraiya was the carrying grandfather figure she'd always wanted, and Naruto made her laugh like no other. They were the first people she could almost consider friends, even Naruto, whom she'd once called an enemy. She smiled about the day's events when Jiraiya had beaten them both up for being too loud and ignoring their training while they'd argued back and forth. She giggled. Sure, the lumps had hurt, but it had been fun. And then there was the night before when Naruto had healed her somehow. She owed him for that. It had been worse than some of the treatments she'd gotten in the past. More than anything, with these 2, she wanted to put her trust in them. Sure, she'd agreed to let old Sannin train her, but that was a means to an end in her vendetta against Orochimaru, but now she truly felt like they were the real thing. What normal people would call friends. With that in mind she drifted off to sleep. The following morning both teens woke up to find Jiraiya gone. Tsuyu-san, how are your legs holding up? Naruto asked over his shoulder. Dandy. She snapped. After all that training we did yesterday, my legs feel like shit. Naruto sighed and turned his eyes back to the road in front of them. The village a small speck behind them. They'd left it earlier that morning after they found Jiraiya gone, making sure to make good time. Tsuyu didn't want to admit it, but she wanted to rest badly. Only 6 hours on the road and she already wanted to stop for the day. But she didn't want to show any weakness in front of her companion. We could stop for lunch, Naruto suggested, it's pretty close to noon now. She was about to say no, but her stomach betrayed her and growled. Naruto heard and looked back at her with a foxy grin. Tsuyu blushed. The air you looking at? Nothing. He laughed and stepped off to the side of the road to unpack their food scrolls. Tsuyu grumbled but went to join him all the same. No sense traveling on an empty stomach. Have you thought about what Gigi told us? She asked. About what? Naruto asked. The bingo book, shit for brains. Tsuyu snapped. We can't just live off what little he left behind. Oh, right. Naruto laughed, scratching the back of his head. I guess we could have a look. You're such an airhead. Tsuyu growled, reaching for her pouch, and bringing out the book. Look, he said Chunin level targets were fine, and we need to have at least 3 kills under the belt before he gets back. I know that, Naruto sighed, unsealing some rations, but I don't see how we're going to find 3 new Kenin within a month. Easy. We just find a trio that normally work together and take them out. Tsuyu smirked. Simple as that. And the attack plan, he said, and tossed the girl a rice ball, we can't just rush in head first. I thought that's what you were best at. Tsuyu grinned, and bit into her rice ball. Besides, we won't be expected to be much of a threat since we're so young. If you say so, Naruto said. That's more like it, she said. Now the next village is a big one, so all sorts of people come and go through it, so we may get lucky. The only reason Ero Sennin told us to wait for him there is because it has an onsen. Naruto thought, I get the feeling this is gonna be a lot of headaches in the making. Admit it, Kit, you would do the same thing. The Kyuubi said. Would not. I'm a pervert, but I'm not a peeping Tom. Why do you do that? Tsuyu asked, snapping him back to reality. Do what? Naruto asked in confusion. Sometimes you'll look off into space and get these weird looks on your face. She said, like you're talking to someone. Oops. Oh, that. Look. Don't bother trying to make shit up, she said. I won't keep bugging you about it if you don't wanna tell me. Thanks, he said truthfully, then looked at the black book she was holding. Are there any targets in there that hang out around here? Yeah, actually, there's a ing ton. She snapped, flipping through the book, but that's the good thing, isn't it? Give that thing here, Naruto said, and she handed it over. Just what I thought. These guys are all S-rank Newcannons. Huh, Tsuyu scoffed. You're full of shit. Hell if I'm lying. Look here, Naruto pointed to one ninja in particular. This guy's the most dangerous one out of the bunch. Look at all the crimes he has under his name. Tsuyu paled, and this is one of the Chunin we're supposed to go after. No, but they're probably teamed up with him since he's a Jonin rank ninja. Naruto said, there's no way we could take him down. What if we take him by surprise? She asked. I mean, look at the bounty on this guy's head, Shithia-kun. If we take him down, then Gigi will have to let us come along. Naruto narrowed his eyes at her. Not gonna give up, are you? Tsuyu grinned. Nope. Naruto sighed. What did I do to deserve this? It's destiny, Kit. She's fated to be your loving mate. The fox cackled, making Naruto groan. Alright. Naruto sighed again. We'll give it a try, Tsuyu whooped, but Naruto continued, but if I think things are getting too dangerous, then we're out of there. Fine, she growled. Geez, thanks for the vote of confidence, shithead-kun. Naruto rolled his eyes. Is it too much to say that I don't want you overdoing it? She blushed at that. Don't worry about me. But then something struck her. We need to stop in town for something first. What's that? I need a flute. She looked down at herself, then at Naruto, and we both need some new clothes. 10 hours later, an hour away from the village, a small band of ninjas sat around a campfire laughing and drinking as they celebrated the day's spoils. Above them, on a high cliff, sat two teens. This is the plan, asked a boy in an orange and black outfit and Jonin-style vest. We're really just going to barge in. Shut up, shithead-kun, said his companion. Look at them, they're getting drunk. Nothing's less dangerous than a drunk ninja. The girl who stood beside him wore a vest similar to his, along with a chain mail shirt underneath a cream-colored GI, and sported a black cap and shorts. Yeah, but take a closer look, Tsuyu-chan, Naruto said, our target is barely touching his drink. Don't worry about him, she smirked. Once I start playing, he'll be begging for. So important to your future that you do not finish that sentence, Naruto groaned. Seriously, how did you get such a foul mouth? I blame the people I grew up with, she said simply, grinning at his discomfort, and you're starting to sound like Jirobo. Just start place. Hold it, Kit, before you get started, I can sense 5 more presences in the trees around the camp. Guards? Most likely. Probably some screw-ups that got stuck with the grunt work while the others are enjoying their spoils. Thanks for the heads up. There's that look again, Tsuyu said in annoyance. Seriously, what the is up with that? There's 5 more men in the trees all around the camp, he said, shocking her. That's what's up with that. Oh, so you're a sensory type. Naruto nodded, her statement being true in a sense. Well, this makes things more interesting. She took out her brand new demonic flute. Stand behind me while cast the genjutsu, or you'll get caught. Naruto nodded and stepped back as Tayuya brought the flute to her lips. The melody that started to play was soft and sweet. Naruto had never been one to listen to such things, but he thought that it was most beautiful music he'd ever heard. Mateki, Tayuya thought as she played, Mugen Onsa. Down in the camp the leader, Seiji Miyazawa, heard something that was out of place here. A flute. Suddenly, all of his men started screaming and falling to the ground, clutching at their limbs. What the s going on? Seiji roared, and then it hit him, genjutsu. And then his world started to warp. He clapped his hands together before the jutsu could take hold of him and shouted, Kai. Back on the cliff, Naruto was marveling at the effects Tayuya's playing was having on the camp. Many had stopped moving and screaming completely, and Naruto could no longer sense their chakra. Damn, I wish I was a genjutsu type. He thought dejectedly. Oi, kid, look out. Kaden. Goryuka no jutsu. Tayuya. Naruto jumped and grabbed the girl's waist, hauling her away from the cliff just as a gigantic fireball exploded against it. What the? Tayuya yelled. He must have dispelled the jutsu. Naruto growled, we got a fight on our hands. That you do. Tayuya moaned as she saw the man standing on the sheer edge of the cliff. He was tall, and, like his bingo book picture, had heavy scarring on his face below his right eye. Around his forehead he wore a Kumo Hitai with a slash through the Kumogakur symbol. Children, Seiji said in wonder, then chuckled darkly, whichever one of you cast that genjutsu has a lot of talent. All my men died from heart attacks within minutes of it. He looked down at Tayuya. I suppose it was you, Gaki. What of it? She snapped. Well, seeing as I no longer have any men, he sneered, I don't suppose you'd care to join my ranks. Go yourself. Tayuya spat, you're scum, just like the book says. Ah, so you're both bounty hunters, Then he laughed, a little young, but, then most of them start young. Still, it's a shame that such a cute couple is about to die. Who's a couple you shit? Tayuya launched herself at him, a kunai already in her hand. Too bad, Seiji formed the tiger seal, you lose. She heard Naruto roar. Tayuya flattened herself to the ground, Fuma shuriken. She felt her hair brush with the massive shuriken as it sailed over her. Seiji swore and broke off his jutsu and under the weapon as well. Now, Naruto shouted, and leapt over to Tayuya, Kuchio's, Yutai Kuzushi no Jutsu. Suddenly Tayuya saw a puff of smoke, and down came an armored toad slightly bigger than a cow. Seiji leapt out of the way just as the toad crashed to the ground where he had been. Don't let up. Gamma. Grab him. Gamma's tongue shot out of his mouth and wrapped around the man's ankle. Shit. Seiji yelled as he felt himself being reeled in, and used the boar, ram, snake, horse and dragon seals, Raiden, Jibashi. Lightning started shooting from his hands, and he touched them to Gamma's tongue. Let go. Naruto shouted, but it was too late on Gamma's part as his tongue was assaulted with thousands of volts of electricity. Bastard. Tayuya roared, momentarily forgotten by Seiji, and hurled her kunai and shuriken at him. Seiji let off his jutsu to block them, giving Naruto a chance to dispel the summoning for poor Gamma. You'll pay for that, Naruto shouted, and jumped again. I'd like to see you try and collect. Seiji laughed and dove right for him. Here's your bill, Naruto yelled, his right hand coming up with a massive amount of chakra in his palm, time to pay up. Rasengan. Seiji grinned madly, no you don't. Making a familiar seal, Kaden, Goryuka no Jutsu. The dragon-headed fireball barreled toward Naruto with no chance of him escaping. Tayuya screamed as the flames engulfed him. Gotcha. Seiji crowed as he leaned, and turned toward Tayuya, now for you, bitch. Not today. What? Suddenly the ground underneath Seiji's feet erupted as Naruto sprang out of the ground with his Rasengan ready. How? Kage Bushin. Naruto roared, and drove his Rasengan home, this is for Gamma. And for insulting my friend. The spiraling sphere of chakra sent the Nukenon twisting back into the air. Tsuyu was stunned. You really got him. Naruto turned to her with a foxy grin, and said, we got him. Quote exclamation mark. I nearly got us killed. Tsuyu spat. You don't have to make fun of me. I'm not, Naruto said, if you hadn't thrown those shuriken, then Gamma would be dead. Even a toad can't take that much power, especially one his size. Seiji's body finally crashed back to the ground with a sickening crunch, and he made no effort to get up again. Think he's dead? Naruto asked. After a fall like that, Tsuyu smirked, even Orochi Tem would be dead. With that freaky neck extension thing he does. Naruto frowned. Good point, she said, then looked down at the camp. How are we gonna get these guys to the bounty office? Naruto thought about it for a minute. Have you got an empty storage scroll? Half an hour later the two were heading to the village with a scroll clutched in Naruto's hand. Tsuyu smiled, thinking that Jiraiya would be happy when he came back, which reminded her of something. Oi, shithead, you didn't use a Bushin to use the Rasengan, did you? Naruto stopped, his eyes widening. Hey, you're right. Naruto jumped up. I did it, Datbeo. Tsuyu rolled her eyes at him. Nice going, Naruto. Then bit her tongue as she realized she'd slipped, and Naruto didn't miss it. Oi, you said my name. He was smiling widely. Tsuyu growled and strode on ahead of him. Naruto was right behind her. Come on, say it again. It was just a slip. She yelled, you're still shithead. No, you called me Naruto, so you have to keep doing it. Naruto said happily. I mean, what friends call each other names like that? Tsuyu turned and looked at him. So we're friends. Naruto smiled. Yup. Tsuyu turned away and kept walking, all the while hiding her grin. You know, while I was watching Sasuke before he came with us, I noticed he called you Dobi a lot. Naruto paled. Now don't you start. Ah, but I think it's kinda cute. Dobi. Tsuyu giggled, then ran ahead of him. Come on, Dobi, we have some bounties to collect. Naruto sighed. Why can't I keep my mouth shut? You never could. Kyuubi commented, but it's fine this way, isn't it? Naruto smiled. Yeah, Kyuubi, I guess you're right. He chased after her, thinking that this was going to be a better trip than he'd thought. In 2 weeks' time, Jiraiya found himself staring down at a familiar sight from the trees. All has the be underground, doesn't it, you snake? He muttered, and walked down the trunk slowly. There didn't seem to be anyone or anything around, but that didn't mean the base was abandoned. He bit his thumb on the way down, performing the Kuchio's no jutsu as he reached the ground. 2 small toads appeared, normal-sized toads by any standards. Listen, you two, I need you to do some scouting for me. Both toads nodded, and hopped up onto his shoulder, as Jiraiya peeked around his tree. See that? That's one of Orochimaru's hideouts, and I need to know if anyone's in there or not. Can you do that for me? The toads croaked, and hopped away. Be careful, Jiraiya hissed after them. Hell, yeah, the 6 Tsuyu shouted, another one down. Naruto grinned at her from where he was sitting. Come on, it's just a cage bushin. No it's not. The real one snapped, it's my 6th cage bushin. My limit was 4, remember? I couldn't make that many without getting dizzy. Yeah, you kept falling over, he grinned, then paled as 6 sets of knuckles cracked. You really need to learn some tact, you know, Kit. Naruto didn't have time to answer as he was trying to escape the wrath of 6 angry redheads. After what seemed like hours, Jiraiya's 2 toads came back, dirty but unharmed. Well, did you find anyone? Many bones, and some prisoners. Croaked one of them. No guards that we could see. Croaked the other. What was the condition of the prisoners? The toads looked at each other and then back to Jiraiya. Alive. That didn't sit well with the toad Sennin. Alright, you two go to my apprentice and his companion, and reverse summon them here. I want to check this thing out now. and I have a feeling that I'll need them. Roger. The two toads poofed away. After the afternoon of training, Naruto and Tayuya had collapsed in the area they were using. Tayuya's bushions had all dispelled on their own as the girl's chakra had run dry, while Naruto was recovering from a severe beating from 5 temperamental girls. Not only were his ears ringing from the rain of blows, but from the howling laughter of a certain orange fox inside his head at the boy's misfortune. You really need to learn how to deal with the vixens, Kit, the fox said, his laughter still booming throughout his mind. I can honestly say you're in worse shape than when the pink vixen gets through with you. Ah, shut up, you stupid fur ball. Naruto snapped. At least she increased her chakra reservoir again. She's getting stronger little by little. She certainly is. I'm still amazed at how fast she's gotten the Kage Bushin no Jutsu down. She had a fairly decent reserve already. Seriously, I thought she was gonna kill me this time though. She's almost as bad as Ba-chan. Muhahahaha. Comparing your mate to that buxom brute. Not a good idea. You keep calling her my mate, Naruto growled, but do you even believe that's possible with you inside me, fox? That hurt, Kit. He could feel the hurt in the fox's voice this time. You know I didn't choose this. Sorry, fox. I know you didn't. Come to think of it, why did you attack the village? I'll tell you later, Kit, but right now, I think your vixen is about to start up again. Time to run again. Oi, shithead. Tayuya groaned. Ah, Naruto jumped up, with a little help from his ability. No more, Tayuya-san. I give up. But the girl didn't look like she was going to hit him again. In fact, she still looked tired as she wobbled over to him. I'm not gonna hit you, dumbass. Tayuya snapped, a blush rising to her face. I just wanted your help with something. He was surprised. Like what? A nap, she said. She grabbed him by the scruff of his vest. I could use a pillow. Naruto, and even the Kyuubi, was stunned as the red head dragged him over to a tree. Oh oi, wait a minute, Naruto shouted. Where did that come from? Tayuya knew how this looked, but she needed a boost in her chakra, and that's exactly what Naruto could provide, even if he didn't know it. Still, it was embarrassing, and she wished that the old man would let her tell him about his healing abilities. Just shut up, shithead-kun, I'm tired after all that running around. Then use the backpack you bought. Naruto whined, though he wasn't putting up much resistance. Just go with it, Kit. She probably wants the warmth. The fox reasoned. It's starting to get colder. You're softer, she said, causing the blonde to blush that would have made Hinata proud. Besides, it's getting cold out here. Naruto's sweat dropped as the fox laughed and said, told you so. Naruto. The two jumped as two toads popped out of a small puff of smoke. Kaichu, Ritsu, Naruto said, identifying the toads, what are you guys doing here? We're to reverse summon you to Jiraiya-sama immediately, the toad on the left, Ritsu, said. He wishes to investigate the compound of Orochimaru that was found, but believes he will need your help. Is Gigi alright? Tayuya asked worriedly. Why didn't he come back for us? It would have likely been too late for the survivors. Now please, Naruto-sama, Tayuya-sama, time is of the essence. Better go with them, Kit, this sounds serious. Alright, then, let's go. Naruto said, let's kick that snake's, bang. Ouch. What the hell, Tayuya? He glared at the girl, nursing her reddening fist. As much as I'd love to feed that snake his balls for breakfast, Naruto cringed, covering that particular part of his anatomy. How does a reverse summon even work? Naruto smiled. Kaichu, Ritsu. Right away. The toads quickly hopped on both Tayuya and Naruto's shoulders. Tayuya looked worried. I get the feeling I'm gonna poof. Puke. Jiraiya jumped, startled by the outburst as Tayuya and Naruto appeared beside him, with Tayuya hunched over. Naruto, however, was laughing his off. He shook his head and bopped him on the head to silence him. That's enough of that, Jiraiya said, then looked over at the girl. Tayuya-chan, you okay? Ah, she groaned, I don't ever wanna do that again. My most sincere apologies, Tayuya-sama. Kaichu said, bowing to her from her shoulder. We didn't know it would cause motion sickness. Ritsu said, humbly. It didn't happen to me, Naruto said. Whoop-ting do, Tayuya snapped, getting to her feet. Now where's that sorry sob that left me under a tree? He's not here, Jiraiya said. Tayuya growled, then why are we? The toad sage groaned, Tayuya, I told you I didn't know whether or not he'd be here, but come on. There's still people down there and I need your help. Both of you. Great. Naruto yelled happily, oh yeah. We got our 3 Chunin, and a Jonin. Jiraiya grinned, good work. Now let's see how you handle what could be down there. Tayuya peeked around the tree at the base, I know this place. What? Naruto asked. Really? Jiraiya said, looking down at the girl, I take it they weren't pleasant times. Tayuya bit her lip, no, they weren't. Jiraiya nodded, you can stay here if you don't want to go in. No, I'll be fine, she lied, then took out her new flute, let's get in there. She strode toward the entrance with a purpose in her step. Naruto was about to follow her when the Kyuubi spoke to him. Kit. Yeah, don't let her go in there yet. There's something in there that doesn't feel human. A demon. Hold it to Yuya-san. Naruto called after her, stopping the girl in her tracks. She looked back at him in question. He shook his head in the direction of the compound. Over the past few weeks she'd come to know that meant danger. She walked back to him and the old man. Sense something? She asked, confusing the toad sage. What's she talking about? Naruto placed his hand over his stomach and pretended to scratch it. I'm a sensory type. Jiraiya caught the gesture and nodded. I can feel something down there, but it doesn't feel human. Now that he'd spoken with the fox, and gotten a feel for the place himself, he did feel something like the fox's demonic chakra, but not quite as powerful. Is it a curse mark? Jiraiya asked, and can you see if there's more than one? Kneel to the ground and place your hand on the soil. The fox instructed, you'll get a better feel for what you're looking for. And feel for more than one chakra signature. I can't always be the one to warn you, Dadbao. Naruto grinned in his mind at the fox for mocking him, and did as instructed, letting his chakra flow into the ground. As it expanded out beneath them, a cold feeling swept over him that had his tenant growling with bloodlust. Kit, this is worse than I thought. What is that? I've never felt so cold before. Not even in the land of snow. That, Kit, is true demon chakra. Unlike myself, and summon spirits, true demon chakra is what happens if a human fails to enter a sage form, and lives. Normally, if no one's there to help, a human will die or petrify if the nature chakra takes over their system. You're losing me by the minute. Speak my language. By the tails of the Jubi. The fox roared, look, remember what Sasuke's Sikakura looked like? That black mass of hatred. Yeah, are you saying that's what a sage form is? Not quite. Normally sages like Jiraiya take years to practice gathering nature chakra from the environment from the spirits they have a contract with, like the toads. What Sasuke went through is more like a failed sage form, but still being alive after the change in form. It's not a demonic chakra, but it's dangerously close. So, what's down there, Kyuubi? Something I hope we do not meet. But if we do, you're the only one that could stop it, and that's using my power. The power of a Biju is far greater than that of a demon like this poor wretch. Naruto. Jiraiya said, shaking his shoulder. Naruto blinked and came out of his stupor. Find anything. Naruto looked up, focusing his eyes. Both Tayuya and Jiraiya were looking down at him with concern. We might have a problem. After explaining what he'd found out discreetly, the three of them now looked at the compound like a den of vipers. Jiraiya sighed, I knew he was doing research on natural chakra, but I didn't think he'd go this far. Naruto nodded, yeah, but it's the only signature like that I could feel. The humans Kaichu and Ritsu found must not have the curse mark on them yet. Tsuyu shivered, reaching up to touch her shoulder where her own mark had been once. Me, this is wrong. I relied on that thing for so long, but if that's what it was doing to me. She felt a hand placed on her shoulder, covering her own. She looked up at Naruto, who was grinning at her. You didn't choose it, right? Tsuyu shook her head. Then there's nothing to worry about anymore. Just that we need to stop that Orochi Tem once and for all. Jiraiya grinned at him as he comforted the girl. That's right, and as much as it worries me, we need to go down there and get the survivors out. We'll just have to try and avoid that thing, whatever it is, until we can bring the whole place down on its ears. If it has any, quipped Tsuyu. That's my girl. Jiraiya grinned, patting her shoulder, earning a blush from her. Now, let's get down there, and get the hell out of here. Upon entering the compound, Naruto immediately felt his stomach lurch. The scent of death was strong here, so strong that he could barely keep down his breakfast. This is horrible. Easy, Kit, it'll pass in a moment or two. That's easy for you to say, Kyuubi, but damn it, this is thick. I agree. Even for a demon's lair or someone like Orochimaru, this place reeks of cruelty, blood and death. Naruto groaned and pressed on, keeping himself in the lead because of his sensing abilities. Tsuyu was kept in the middle of them for safety, while Jiraiya brought up the rear. So, can you lead us to the prisoners? Jiraiya asked. Naruto groaned. No, directly, all I know is they're still farther ahead of us. And that thing you sensed? Tsuyu asked. What about that? He shivered. It's right below them. He turned to Jiraiya. Look, Ero Sennin, I may have to go overboard if that thing comes after us. Jiraiya nodded. I understand, just don't strain yourself. Tsuyu looked back and forth between the two, but shrugged it off. She knew the blonde was holding something back. Probably something to do with his bloodline trait, she thought, and let it go as they continued. I think I can help in finding them, she said, catching their attention. The old snake usually kept a records room near the entrances, and this one is no different. It's just up ahead. Does that include a map of the compound? Jiraiya asked. Hell yeah, she smiled, we'd be able to find them in no time, Gigi. Naruto grinned, then lead on, to Yuya-chan. A vein popped up on her head. What was that, shithead? Naruto gulped. I mean, please lead the way, to Yuya-sama. Tsuyu grinned and strode past him with a little extra sway in her hips that Naruto, sadly, didn't notice, and of course, Jiraiya did. I have really gotta teach this Gaki about women. He sighed, following after the two children. Tsuyu lead them flawlessly to the records room, a dusty room that hadn't been used in what looked like years to them. Dust and decay covered most of the scrolls and tombs that lined the walls. The map they were searching for was pinned to a wall close to the door. Naruto took interest in a scroll that was lying loose on the shelf, barely hanging over the edge. When he pulled the scroll from the shelf, an avalanche of dust that had been the other scrolls fell onto him. Naruto hacked, coughed and sneezed, much to Tsuyu's amusement. But Jiraiya noticed the scroll that had attracted his attention. Naruto, what's that scroll you have there? Naruto held the scroll out to him. I don't know, but it's the only one that wasn't rotten. He handed the scroll over for him to inspect. Jiraiya blew a bit of dust off, and found an oddly familiar symbol. Well, this is an Uzumaki sealing scroll. Naruto's eyes widened. Did he say Uzumaki? Jiraiya saw the look of wonder and disbelief on the blonde's face and smiled. Yeah, Gaki, this is your scroll by birthright. He handed the scroll back to the stunned boy. The Uzumaki clan was known for their fuinjutsu, and had close ties to the Senju clan when Konohagakure was founded. Tsuyu smirked. Looks like you ain't such a doby after all. But the smirk died on her lips as soon as she saw her friend's face. He was gripping the scroll like a lifeline, and he was biting his lip, fighting back tears. Naruto. The tears spilled over. I had a family. Focus, Naruto, Jiraiya said, we can talk about it later. Right now we need to find those prisoners and get them out of here. Right. He stuffed the scroll into his vest pocket. Let's go. Tayuya, in a rare display, went and bumped her shoulder against his. You gonna be okay, shithead-kun. Naruto gave his usual foxy grin. Yeah, it's just a little much to take in. Well, let's go, she said. This place is giving me a bad stream of memories. The three moved out of the records room, and followed Tayuya, who carried the map. The redhead kept up a steady pace, not willing to take her time, and soon they came to circular room with A. This is the operating room, Tayuya growled, looking at the rectangle-shaped table in the center of the room. Her whole body began to shake with fear and rage as she remembered her time on that very table. The cells, she said, should be just up ahead. Now it was Naruto's turn to be worried for his friend. But he knew what to do for it. Oi, Arrow Sennin, let's blow this place to hell when we're done, okay? Jiraiya smiled. You bet, I've got enough exploding seals for the job. Tayuya looked back at them, a small smile playing across her face. Thanks, guys. Tayuya sighed. Who's there? All three whipped around. Hello. Jiraiya called out. We're friends. We've come to get you out. Naruto shouted. For a long minute or two there was nothing. No sounds. Then the sounds of chains and shuffling could be heard. Naruto's ears perked up. Over there. He darted toward a corridor on the left. Hold on. Jiraiya yelled, hurrying after him with Tayuya close behind him. Naruto ran along the hall following his instincts to the sound. His sensory abilities leading him faster with each step. On your left, Kit. Naruto slid on the balls of his feet and made a hard left. Where are you? Naruto yelled. Here. An arm seemed to shoot out of the wall in front of him. Help us. Jiraiya. Tayuya. I found them. Naruto yelled, sliding on the bottom of his sandals, and stopping in front of a cell. Oh, thank Kami, it was a woman, poor and malnourished, with shocking red hair. Her smile lit up her gaunt face like a blazing ray of sun. Please, you must get us out of here. Us. Naruto looked behind her, seeing more than 15 people inside the cell, all with the same red hair. Okay, let's get you out of here. He held up his hand and started forming his Rasengan. Stand back. Wait, said a man's voice, who are you? Rasengan. He brought the jutsu down on the lock and door. The metal warped and shattered, nearly blowing the door off its hinges. Smiling at his work, he stepped into the cell. Naruto Uzumaki, at your service. Uzumaki. The woman said, but your hair is blonde. Our clan has red hair. Naruto's eyes widened. What did you say? Just then Jiraiya and Tayuya arrived. Are you telling me that you're all part of the Uzumaki clan? What was that? Jiraiya yelled. That's not possible. The Uzumaki clan was wiped out when the Third War started. The man that had spoken stepped forward. That is true, he smiled sadly, but some of our clansmen escaped the destruction. We fled into the mountains. We spent years there with so few of us to continue the clan, but we managed, and then Orochimaru came. Naruto took a good look at him. He was around 30 or so, and had scars all over his torso. We of the Uzumaki have always attracted attention, wanted or not. He said, many clans wanted to take our sons and daughters for marriage. Others wanted to destroy us. Ultimately, our gifts with our chakra are what led to our destruction. Gifts? Naruto asked. The woman stepped forward this time. Our chakra was special. Like a multifaceted Kekkei Genkai, it had multiple uses. From healing, she looked down at Naruto, to sealing. Which is what attracted Orochimaru. Are you talking about the chakra chains? Jiraiya asked. What are those? Naruto asked. It is a form of Fuinjutsu, the woman said, and yes, that is why he came for us. But it was a rare ability, even among our clan. Only Kushina-san was able to use it, and she died in the leaf against the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto grew excited at the news. Does that mean there were other Uzumaki in the Leaf Village? She shook her head. No, Kushina-sama was the only one. Naruto looked down slightly, and Tayuya noticed that Jiraiya was growing uncomfortable. He's hiding something from him. Then she grinned. What's got you so down, shithead? If she was the only Uzumaki in the village, that means that she was your mother, right? Naruto's head snapped up. Hey, that's right. The man smiled. That would explain a few things. Wait, Jiraiya said, looking down at the blonde. Naruto, you need to know something. Naruto smiled at him, his cerulean eyes whirling sadly. You knew them, didn't you? To which Jiraiya nodded. It's okay, I know it was probably a good reason for keeping it from me. A very good reason, he said, but not because of your mother, it was your father that would have caused the trouble. Tell him to stop beating around the bush already. The fox roared, I knew that woman. She was my previous container. What the hell happened to her? He saw the boy wince, and figured that the fox was giving him an earful. Look, Gaki, there's a lot that we need to go over. I think you need to sit down. Deep within the bowels of the compound something stirred, a fresh, enticing scent reaching its senses. A massive forked tongue flicked out of a black scale-lined mouth. This wasn't the scent of its charges which its master had asked him to watch over, no, this was fresh meat. With a shuddering breath, the beast rose up on its coils and spread a massive hood out from its head. Time to eat. Naruto and Tayuya sat in stunned silence as Jiraiya finished his tale. The remaining Uzumaki had all listened with interest as the boy found out about his lineage. So, the blonde said uneasily, that's who I am. Yes, Jiraiya said, hanging his head in shame, I'll understand if you wish to call our trip quits. If I were in your shoes right now, I wouldn't want anything to do with me either. Naruto looked up at him. How could I do that? You're my Oji-chan, after all. Jiraiya smiled at him and reached out to pull the boy into a hug. Tayuya watched on, looking slightly jealous. Naruto noticed this, and pulled her into their embrace. Don't think I'd leave you out, Nei-san. She couldn't hide the blush that rose to her face when he said that, but returned the hug all the same. Jiraiya chuckled. This is some family we have, Nei. An old pervert, a blonde loudmouth, and a little habanero. He smiled at both of them. I wouldn't have any other way. The woman, Shizuku, coughed. I'm sorry to break this up, but there are others in need of releasing. Right, sorry, Jiraiya grinned, standing up. Where and who are they? Many are Uzumaki children, the man, Akira as he'd called himself, said, but there is one other further in. Orochimaru has had him locked away for some time. Yes, he was brought in as a boy around 3, Shizuku said. I believe he might be an Uchiha, given how much time Orochimaru put into him. An Uchiha? Tayuya frowned. Then why did he want Sasuke? Saiga's eyes never activated his family's Kekkei Genkei, Akira said, so he was of no use to Orochimaru, and was locked away after trying to escape. He gets less food than we do from our jailer. Jiraiya turned to him. Could you tell us about your jailer? When we came here, Naruto sensed something below you. But he said it wasn't human. Akira nodded. That would be Yamato no Orochi, as he is so called. He shook his head sadly. He was once one of Out clan members, but once Orochimaru got through with him and cast the curse mark on him, nothing of his humanity was left. All he does now is feed us when it is time, and then goes back down to his own cell to wait. Jiraiya stroked his chin in thought. So, it really is a demon beast. He looked back to the people in the cell. What does he look like? What has he become? As his name states, he is a giant snake, now. Shizuku said, he is as cold and heartless as the one that made him this way. Can he be killed? Jiraiya asked. I can't very well let a creature like that roam free. Akira nodded. He is as vulnerable as any other. Cold and heat seem to affect him the most, though. The colder it is for him, the slower he becomes, but the warmer his body is, then the fast he can move. I see. The old sage reached into his robes. All right, Naruto, Tayuya, Go gather up all the children and bring them here. We're going to seal them into a scroll and send them to Tsunade. What? The shout came from all of them, and echoed off the walls all throughout the compound. Quiet. We don't want that snake beast coming for us. Jiraiya yelled. I know it's a little strange, but I've had to do this before, and no harm has ever come to anyone. And the little ones? Shizuku asked.